Hello and welcome back to my channel, What If Deku 2O. Join us as we delve into the realms of fanfiction and fantasy, bringing you the best stories and discussions. Today, we're kicking off part 13 of our series, What If Everyone Gets Obsessed with Deku and Harem? If you enjoy this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more content in the future. The author of this story is Guy number 23 from FanfictionNet. All the relevant links are in the description. Feel free to say hello to the author on their profile. Now, let's dive into the fanfic. Tired. In every conceivable way, the lean man clad in black felt tired. It was to be expected considering his modus operandi and general lifestyle. Nocturnal stealth missions were his specialty, and honestly, he felt much more comfortable in the silence and darkness the night provided. No annoying press asking questions, no dealing with adorable old ladies whose cats were stuck on some tree, no stupid aspirant villains trying to make their name get known. One might think it is unwise to trade the night for the day, even more considering the amount of quality sleep he usually lacked, but so far the man with scruffy black hair got to balance this and his duties as a teacher. Until recently. Aizawa stopped in front of the slightly darkened glass, staring inside the room. How many times did he come here and performed the same routine? How many loaves of bread? He absently brought a hand up to rub his eyes, a natural reflex that helped him endure whatever bothersome situation he found himself in, but then decided to use the collyrium he always brought inside his pocket. Chio always yelled at him because of that bad habit. With a folder full of papers under his arm, he walked to the metallic door of the room, letting out a tired sigh before pressing the open button and going in. He flinched internally in mental pain as the sound of her voice reached his ears. "Oh, good morning, Aizawa-sensei. Did you sleep well?" Toga said from her seat across a square table, her grin too wide and bright for some who woke at 5 in the morning. The tall man ignored her attitude that was surely her way of safely teasing him and sat on the other chair across the table, lazily throwing the folder he carried. Aizawa ran a hand through his hair before speaking, his voice monotone as always. "Before we start, Principal wanted me to deliver a small message. So far you have proved yourself quite useful, Toga. Thanks to your intel, the Pro Heroes and Police Department managed to solve 13 cases put on hold, though most of them involved you. What can I say? My work is that remarkable. We raided 4 hideouts and dismantled 6 illegal operations in the span of a month. We're tracking 12 persons of interest, an increase of 12 since the investigative section began looking for obscure organizations. So to sum it all, you did us a huge favor, except that we're protecting you. I'm pleased to be of help." The blonde made a mock bow, to which Aizawa rolled his eyes, another habit of his. Reaching the papers in front of him, the erasure hero began to flip through the many reports and files, selecting those which he judged more important and tossed them in front of the smiling blonde. "That's nice and all, but all that you did was prove that you're reliable. I think you were aware of what would happen if you failed to do so. Yeah, I would go to jail. Just so you can have a better grasp at your fragile situation, currently your sentence sums up to 7 life imprisonment. Wow, I could wrap up a mummy with my criminal record. Keep that in mind always. Now it's time to get into the deeper levels, the big organizations that maintain the underworld running." Aizawa squinted his eyes, glared at Toga. "And of course, you'll tell me everything about the League." His tone was slightly lower than usual, though you could only notice after months in the class of the dark-haired teacher. Ha 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 ha. "Sensei, that was fun. I didn't know you could joke. If you want to laugh, go see Miss. Joke. I'm always dead serious when it comes to my job." Toga held a defiant smile towards the man, resting her chin in one hand. "Sensei, what makes you think I know anything about those things? 1. You're too smart to join a group or take a job without knowing the risks. You can say whatever you want about following Stain. 2. Your photographic memory has more uses than just passing on tests. 3. You're the kind of person that would learn everything possible whenever you can, just to have a possible advantage in the future. Oh ho? Our time together resumes to half an hour per week at this room, and you know me that well, Aizawa-sensei. I'm flattered. Don't be, it wasn't a compliment. I like to see the bright side of things, and speaking of bright side, wasn't this supposed to be a deal where both parts win? What do I get for this? Aizawa leaned in, resting his arms on the table and interlocking his fingers. What part of keeping your neck safe you missed? The part where I get something actually worthy of everything that I said. He could read her thoughts behind that cunning smile. You're not getting any closer to him. Then you can keep going after small fish. You're not in a position to ask anything. Are you sure about that, sensei? Until now they had been quiet. Too quiet, don't you think? Let's imagine you and your hero friends fail to keep my neck safe. What happens next? Back to level 1. By everything most sacred on this earth, Aizawa didn't know how he resisted the urge to give the voice command. She was on strike 1 already. This discharge would surely wipe away that smug grin from her permanent blushing face. You have one chance. Say something stupid and we'll have a replay of strike 1. Hee, it's actually surprisingly simple. She was aware of her most apparent trait. Her friends knew it, the teachers knew it, it only took a full minute for anyone to get it. Hado Nejire, eternally curious. The bubbly girl with knee-long periwinkle hair that made twists around her waist was famous for a lot of reasons. Her flawless fair skin, her royal blue eyes, her cute looks, and surely her prowess as a hero. She wasn't one of the big 3 for nothing. But that all pales in comparison when you get to know her, and it doesn't even need to be for long. Her curiosity seemed limitless. Literally, anything mildly different or exotic was enough to make the girl go hype with whatever it was, eager to learn about it and share with her friends, and it increased exponentially when it came to people and their quirks. As the generations passed, marriages lead to more and more mixing of quirks, creating a virtual scenario of infinite possibilities, and Hado wanted to see them all. In fact, right now she was dragging her socially awkward friend towards Gamma Gym. They had a free class today, and she delayed this long enough. Nejire-san, I really don't need to see it myself. You'll tell me and Mirio everything later anyway. He offered little resistance as the girl kept pulling his arm, forcefully guiding him through the hallway. Come on, Tamaki, it'll be fun. How can you not be hyped to see those guys together? How can you be so hyped? I get it, they have some kind of rivalry, judging by the sports festival, but is it that hard to believe they would work together? I mean, we're all trying to be heroes here, teamwork is fundamental. I know that, but still, Hado giggled like a kid ready to stuff her face with cake. Our kuhai are so pumped up and eager to win, we must keep an eye on them. Sure, they are something else, but do you need to be so energetic? Arguing wasn't as effective as they got to the gym. Hado kicked the doors open and made her way in, eyes darting from left to right, up and down, perceiving all the young heroes in training currently training. So it was true, classes 1A and 1B were working together. Not that she didn't like to see her kuhai getting along, but she was intrigued with it actually happening. The impression she had was that both classes would be forever rivals, especially the blonde loudmouth from 1B. Speaking of which, she quickly spotted him hung in a cocoon of tape and some white sticky goo, while the boy with weird-looking elbows and the tall guy with many holes for eyes high-fived. Hado twirled around, and wherever she looked as she saw the students working together, trying to combine or counter their abilities in ways she couldn't wait to learn about. But she still had to find someone, a certain boy that caught her attention more than one time. Not only her attention, by the way, as Mirio constantly commented about him, but most of the time it was somehow related to the small kid the blonde helped to rescue Iri-chan. Hado searched for the dark green mop of hair, and right when she spotted it in the distance, she felt a hand land on her shoulder. Tamaki, even if you don't like to be in places with lots of people, it wouldn't hurt to say hi and a Aizawa-sensei. Hado, I heard that the 3rd year had a free class today, but it's not an excuse to simply drop by into another class. Also, don't drag others around like this, he said, pointing to the black-haired teen with pointy ears that looked down and murmured something. Sorry for not telling you before, Sensei, but I simply had to see it myself. The two classes from the first year of Hero course, working together. Yes, we too were surprised when they asked for joint training regularly. Ken Sensei, Vlad King, stood by Aizawa's side, looking back at the students. Since when they came up with the idea, Amajiki asked, showing some level of interest himself. Not long ago. It was after we shared the gym for a day. Probably someone thought it would work well, and the other students replicated the idea, Aizawa said nonchalantly. That made things even more interesting, and Hado couldn't stay put any longer. Really? Sensei, if you don't mind, I'll walk around a bit. I promise I won't distract anyone. I might even give them some hints, she said, waving her hand at the two teachers and friend, not caring to hear his answer. 3 years, and that side of her didn't change a single bit. It wouldn't be her if she wasn't like that, Sensei, Amajiki said to the teacher, who secretly held a small smile under his scarf. The brunette walked towards the place she cited him. If someone could change the rivalry between the classes into a powerful collab, it was him. And to her surprise, the green-haired teen wasn't training alone, on the opposite. Midoriya stood in the middle of a circle formed by 5 girls, the girl with vines for hair, the dark-haired ponytail that created things, the girl with big hands, the gravity brunette with a round face and a floating set of clothes. The girls were attacking him in group, and Midoriya did his best to avoid all of them and counter when an opening appeared. Wow, will he be able to stand against all this? She stared intently as Midoriya sidestepped to evade the vine whips from Shiozaki, also dodging Matryoshka dolls that exploded on impact. And top it, he had to face Uraraka, Kendo, and Hagakure in close combat. Yep, he was really working hard here. For a moment Hado felt entranced, following every move the kid made, focusing on the smallest details, like the sparks that flew by, a result of his quirk. She also noticed the look on his face, determined eyes, and a smile crossing his lips. The girls had similar looks for themselves, which stirred a tinge of awe on the brunette. Midoriya was someone capable of inspiring those around him. Hado decided that it was enough staring as the group did a pause to catch their breath. As you would expect, Midoriya was the one more exhausted, sitting on the floor and panting hard. Yayurazu passed him a water bottle which he quickly drained, chugging it at once. Ha, thanks Momo. Don't overdo it, Izuku. You will end with cramped muscles everywhere. Okay, I'll be careful, but you know I have to force myself to the limit. We all have, silly. That's what she's saying, at least keep on the same level we are, Kendo said as she helped him get on his feet. But he sure looks cool when he's giving his all. The group turned to the unexpected voice and found the smiling brunette coming closer. Hado-senpai? Midoriya was surprised, just as his friends. Oh, the girl from the big 3, Hagakure shouted. Hado walked around him for a bit, humming and looking at Midoriya from head to toe, which made the boy a little nervous. HM, you improved a lot since the last time we met, Midoriya. Thank you, but what brings you here, senpai? Oh, glad you asked. You see, there was this rumor that the 2 rival classes from the first year were training together, and when I heard it, I was like I have to see it myself. Today we had a free class, so here I am, and it was just as I suspected. Eh? What do you mean? Hado got closer to his face, making Midoriya back off a little. Midoriya, it was you, wasn't it? Eh? You were the one to unite the classes. It is totally something you would do. How did it happen? Did you get to train with someone from 1B and the others did the same? Who was it? What did you do back then? What are you focusing on right now? The third-year girl kept shooting questions at the Emerald Boy with speed to match his mumbling sprees, and he tried his best to answer them, but Hado was way too blunt and close, which made him nervous. That proximity didn't pass unnoticed by the brunette round face. Uraraka held a small pout as she watched Hado showering Midoriya with questions. Next to her, Shiozaki hid a faint blush by lowering her head a little, as the mention of her very first interaction with the boy made her flustered. Then another small group approached them. Hey, is it time to change already? Oh, Hado-senpai Ashido joined them. followed by Takage and Tsuyu. Ribbit. Hello, Hado-senpai. What brings you here today? Perhaps we'll face another member of the Big Three? The frog girl asked with her index in her chin. Hi there, and no, I just came to see the two classes together, but, it might be a good idea. She turned back to Midoriya. What do you say, Midoriya? Want to test your progress with me? I don't know. Shouldn't we ask Aizawa-sensei about that first? Come on, Midoriya. I want to see if you got stronger. The brunette held on his arm and shook him lightly, whining like a kid who got denied of something. And that level of intimacy didn't sit well within most of the bystanders. Uraraka made a huge effort, but her fists were shaking, and she felt her left eye twitch. Shiozaki flinched when she noticed the brunette next to her letting out a menacing aura. She looked around, and some of the other girls were just like her, glaring daggers at the senpai clinging on Midoriya. What should she do? Shiozaki was sure she wasn't capable of generating that level of killing intent, so she sought help in her classmates, but Kendo simply shrugged. Are they always like that? The Vine girl thought, slightly worried about what exactly she got herself into. And such pressure was also noticed by the third year too. She didn't let them see it, but Hado watched each girl with curiosity. They seem pretty eager to do something. I wonder what could it be. Maybe they want to fight Midoriya too. Sorry, Hado-senpai, but Midoriya said earlier that he would help me with my breakdance fighting moves, right, Midoriya? Ashido held on his other arm and pulled him slightly. We are still training with cutie Midoriya, Mina-chan, so she'll have to wait even longer. Maybe you should come another day, senpai? Hagakure made her way between the brunette and Midoriya, dragging him away from her. Suddenly Hado's face lit up with the bright of the sun. Jealous. These girls are jealous of Midoriya. Oh, that's so cute. Which girl does he like? Hado might look like an airhead most times, but she was no fool. During these 3 years, she saw many boys and girls experiencing the famous school crushes. She even got some confessions herself, though she declined all of them politely. It wasn't completely visible, but she could see these girls held feelings for him, and that raised so many questions to her. What did they see on Midoriya that they liked? When did they realize they had a crush on him? Who was the closest one to the green teen? Did they try to make a move on him yet? Hado absolutely had to know more about this, not for the gossip but solely because she was curious about how the socially awkward teen would interact with these girls. It was like seeing a different version of Amajiki and his not very known group of fangirls. But that was for later on, as right now her curiosity was focused primarily on the green teen himself. Ni Midoriya, since I'm here I have an idea for all of you. Her eyes gleamed with excitement. Unbelievable, Tatsuma Ruko, the pro-hero Rukyu, just couldn't believe in her eyes. It's not even 9 p.m., yet these three are completely drunk already. She sweat-dropped, looking worried at the trio of inebriated ladies as they laughed and talked loud. To celebrate a well-done rescue and prison of 5 villains, Usujima Rumi, also known as the rabbit hero Maruko, was throwing a party at her house. She invited all the female heroes she knew to what she called an only girls' night. She was sure it would reflect positively in her popularity rankings since she did it all by herself, and she simply couldn't stress this enough. Maruko wasn't one to brag a lot, but when she did, you better be ready for a long speech. Though her purpose was to throw her feet in the face of the other heroes, it was in a friendly way, and no one could say she was a bad hostess since she literally said, "Make yourself at home and drink as much as you want." But perhaps it shouldn't be said when you have Pixie Bob and in the room. It took them less than 10 minutes to empty 3 beers each, and it was an hour ago. Right now they were sitting on a large black couch shaped after a crescent moon, laughing their heads off for who knows the reason. Whatever it was, Emi's outburst was leaking, increasing their laughing fit. The dragon hero, who barely finished her second drink, looked worried at the 3 drunk heads, them at her blonde companion, Uwabami. The celebrity hero simply replied with a relaxed smile. "Let them have it, Ruko-san. It's not every day that we can relax and forget about the job." "I know, but still, don't you think they are going too far?" Ha, it wouldn't be fun if someone didn't pass out. And speaking of it, Ruko, you're not following us here. Uzuyama, with a small tinge of red crossing her face, came around the two sitting on the bar stools. She wrapped an arm around Ruko's shoulder and gave a bottle of wine in the blonde's hands. I want this empty in 10 minutes. I'm not a heavy drinker, Usajima-san. Oh please, just call me Rumi, and it won't do any harm. Look at Nimuri over there. The tan-skinned woman pointed to another couch across the large living room, where 3 more guests sat. Hearing her name, Nimuri turned to the rabbit hero with an inquiring look. Are you implying something, Rumi? Not at all. What I'm saying is that you can hold your cup. Takayama, on the other hand, but that's the fun part. Oi, I'm not that hick drunk, yet aha ha 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 ha, the blonde shouted, raising a bottle with Cat Ruko and Emi. On the other couch, Tamakorodal laughed, while Shinamandale let out a sigh. I'm sorry about her. It's hard to stop Ruko when she finds someone to accompany her, she said to the R-rated hero. Nah, it's fine. If nothing, you is the one to blame since she called a contest, Nimuri said, finishing another martini and eating the pea. Truth be told, they all were under the effect of alcohol, but on whole different levels. Plus, Nimuri and Shino had high resistance and could keep straight faces even after a lot of drinking. Tomoko and Rumi were the kind of person that gets more hyped if the green-haired woman could ever be more hyped than she naturally was. Uwabami only drinks socially, as she had to keep her celebrity image at all times, and Dragon Ruko just wasn't fond to the booze. And as the time passed and the empty bottles piled up, they chatted about literally anything that came around their inebriated heads, be it the troubles they dealt with being pro-heroes or any other aspect of their lives that they found worthy of sharing. At some point Cat Ruko started to cry out loud, well, kind of. The tears were rolling free, but she had the biggest grin plastered in her face. Ha 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 ha, why? Why it has to be so hard? She half cried, half laughed, while Shino patted her head, sweat dropping. It's okay, Ruko. You'll meet a nice guy, eventually. But PFFFT hee 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 hee, I'm getting old. I don't want to end my days as the single aunt with cats. Ha 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 ha, I get it, cats. Emi hit her hand repeatedly on the couch. Oi, don't give me this shit. I'm still a young woman and so are you. You have plenty of time, Nimuri said after finishing another drink, pointing the cup towards the blonde. They had the same age, after all. It's easy to say that when you're the ha-ha-ha, the R-rated hero, ha-ha-ha, the guys fall all over you. Yeah, they all fall asleep. Ah-ha-ha-ha-ha, you must be the dream girl of every guy you met, Nimuri. The green-haired woman was holding her sides. Shut up, Emi. I can't even hee-hee. I can't even cry with you around, ha-ha-ha-ha. Oh my god, don't stop. That's too good. Now Emi was on the floor, trying to breathe normally. As for Cat Ruko, she finished another wine bottle and let out a tired sigh. Seriously? Even you got someone, and I'm stuck single. PFFT? The other drunk blonde choked on her drink when she heard that. Panic quickly took over her reddened face. WW, where did you get that from? Huh? Aren't you and Kamui a thing? Asked Cat Ruko. Of course not. No way. Me and Kamui? Yeah, like that would happen. I'm still a solo player, completely single, never heard of boyfriend. Even the amount of booze she drank wasn't enough to slow down her words. You then averted her gaze, sipping her drink. Come on, you can tell us. Admit it, you formed a team with him because he gives you the hots, Rumi teased the giant hero. Rumi-san, I don't that would be the case, Dragon Ruko said in defense of you. Well, it's not like it doesn't happen. I was invited one or another time, but they only wanted a famous name on the team, Uwabami told the dragon hero. That's totally not my case. Really? If I'm not mistaken, your debut was during an incident where he showed up. Did you try to impress him, huh? Rumi kept teasing you. Hell no, it was just a coincidence. A meet with destiny. It was not. Ha 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 ha. Oh, I have a good one. You and Kamui under a tree, but wait, Kamui is the tree. Ha 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 ha, Emi said, still getting back on her feet. With a little help of her quirk, she managed to get at least a snicker from her friends. Well, Mimiri, Shino, and Dragon Ruko snickered. Rumi was barely suppressing her laughs while Cat Ruko and Tomoko lost it together with the clown of the party. The laughs died when everyone gave a second thought to Emmy's choice of words. Oh. Yeah. Are you sure you don't have any interest in him? The rabbit hero said. Did they get a tinge of shyness in her voice? Yeah, I don't have any personal interest, you said, crossing her arms. What's up with everyone shipping her with the guy? He wasn't a bad person, but come on, they just formed a team, it's not a marriage. Well, be careful anyway, you can end stuck like the Aunt of Cats here. She took the opportunity to mess with Cat Ruko, who was quick to answer. I'm not a lost cause, I'm just waiting. Heh, waiting? What now? Are you gonna say you're still a? No shit. Rumi saw the way Cat Ruko looked down and Shino winced. She hit a delicate spot, didn't she? Sensei, are you serious about that? Say one time you saw me joking, Kaminari. If you want to laugh, I know the right person, but you get expelled as a bonus. Kaminari, Shiro, and Kirishima flinched at the answer. Well, in their defense, it was really an atypical situation. Normally, after the classes ended, Aizawa would practically vanish and only appear to give them some really important information. Yet, here he was at ground beta preparing an extra class, if they could call it that way. Apparently, Hado-senpai and Amajiki-senpai paid a visit to them during the joint training, and the Bluenet came up with the craziest idea. Yash, you can come all at once, like when Mirio did it. Hado was jumping in place, warming up before starting. With a dose of persuasion and a bigger dose of whining, she convinced Aizawa to let her fight the students from 1A and 1B. And of course, she dragged Amajiki into this. The indigo-haired teen sighed in defeat, also warming up. He had been involved in something troublesome again. Should we go all out from the start, Nejire? Go easy on them at first, but don't underestimate them. They are full of surprises. Guess you're right. Mirio always talks about how Midoriya constantly comes up with something new, he said, pulling the hood of his costume. Hado agreed with him. She had a great interest in seeing what development he did until now. Her eyes focused on the end of the street, where the students were getting ready. It was pretty simple, the 2 first-year classes versus 2 of the best students from the school. They even had their costumes to use every option possible. At the end of the street, Midoriya adjusted his gloves, recently calibrated by the young inventor of 1H, and thought of a plan, or at least he tried. The fight with Mirio showed him clearly the gap between them and the 3rd year, plus he knew just how strong Hado was, and Amajiki had an incredible capability to adapt and turn the situation to his favor. But even knowing that he was eager to fight them, his hands shook in anticipation, the thrill of facing the best of you was getting to him. Then a hand held on his own. You sure look excited for this, Deku-kun? Well, it's the big 3 we're talking about here. Man, Tagada-senpai completely destroyed us last time. I'm a little worried that we'll face 2 of them, Ashido said, getting closer to the duo. Ribbit, I'm worried too, but this will be a good chance to see how far we came already. One by one, the girls gathered around the green-haired teen. It was natural to them, even more now that they felt anxious, and some people noticed the group forming. Midoriya gets along with a lot of girls, don't you think, Bakugo? Kirishima said. They see him as one of them. That shitty nerd Bakugo didn't care if they were against the 3rd year or whatever, he would win anyway. On another side, the midget from Wano was chewing a purple ball. Why it had to be Midoriya? Just because he had a cute face. He could look cute too. Dude, are you sure it's okay to put this in your mouth? Kaibara said, also looking to Shiro, who was next to them. Let him be. That's what Minta gets for being, well, Minta, the tape hero said. It's not only me, Shiro, I'm talking about the group here. At this rate, Midoriya won't leave a single girl for us. Do you even think before speaking? The lean teen shook his head. His friend was a lost cause. Is he always like that? Honkuni pointed to the shorty teen as he glared at Midoriya's general direction and squished the purple ball between his teeth. Just ignore him. He's envious because girls prefer to be around a decent guy. Honestly, I can see why Kendo has a thing for him. Kendo? Really? She won't admit it, but she has a huge crush on him. Looking closer, it makes sense. Midoriya must be a cinnamon roll, Honkuni concluded. Yeah, I bet cinnamon roll is their favorite food, mine to spat, then received a slap from Zero. But that last comment caught the attention of a short blonde with bright blue eyes. They have a common taste. That's cute. What is cute? Yanagi asked her foreign friend. Midoriya and Kendo like cinnamon rolls. I find it cute that they share a taste for food, and you, Yanagi-chan? Meh, as long as she's happy, but isn't it weird that they didn't make it official yet? You mean it's weird that Midoriya keeps so many girls around him? Kodai pointed to the small crowd around the Emerald Boy. Not really. Kendo isn't the type to be possessive and jealous just because he has some girl friends. I know that, but this is too much, don't you think? I think. The girls turned to the brunette in a costume of a witch themed after mushrooms. Komori went silent for a moment with all the eyes focused on her, but continued. I think Midoriya is a nice person to be around. I mean, Kendo saw something on him, so the others might have a special reason to be this close to him. A special reason, huh? Kodai thought about it for a moment. Maybe they are hoping to get into the Green Valley, she joked, getting a quirked eyebrow from Yanagi and a surprised look from Komori, but the best part was the lost expression Tsunatori had. Valley? Where? Are we going on a trip? Kodai flinched. She totally forgot about the language barrier. It's nothing. Just a silly joke, Tsunatori. I don't get it. What valley? Explain to her, Kodai. I can't imagine Midoriya getting close to any valley, though Yanagi teased her courtier friend. It was a little game between them where one would try to embarrass the other just for the fun of it. Despite that, Kodai managed to maintain her serene face. If I explain, it won't be funny anymore. Just forget I said it, Kodai said, looking at the silver-haired girl, then walked to the starting point. Tsunatori watched her go, still confused. Well played, Yanagi went after her. The blonde just looked lost at her friends. I don't think he would do that, but maybe he doesn't have to go this far, so. Komori followed the two, looking at the ground and fiddling with her water guns nervously, leaving Tsunatori alone, arms raised and a slightly indignant expression. Hey, I don't get it. Where's the funny part? She said, going after the group. Back the large group of girls surrounding the green cinnamon roll, Midoriya was distracted thinking when he felt a pair of hands wrapping around his waist. The movement was subtle, yet it felt natural to him, so he simply turned his head a little to see the clingy girl. Right now isn't a good place or time. Someone can see us, even if you're invisible to Himiko? He shouted and jumped to the side once he found golden eyes and a fanged grin where he expected to find nothing at all. Good to see you lively as always, Izuku. The blonde instantly got all the eyes around focused on her. They didn't have pretty looks. If you keep doing those ugly faces, you might end stuck with them. Just saying, despite the killing intent, Himiko kept relatively close to Midoriya. What are you doing here? This isn't officially part of the classes, and what are you wearing? After recovering from the shock, Midoriya noticed that she wasn't wearing her normal clothes, either the school's training clothes. Oh, I just got these. Do you like it? Himiko spun on her heels, showing her new outfit to him. It was basically Midoriya's hero costume. Dark green jumpsuit with black lines on the sides, a red belt with some pockets, a black protection cover on the legs up to the thighs, and even red boots that matched his, but lacking the iron soles. Her gloves had the same beige color but only reached her wrist, and her respirator had a different design to it, resembling sharp teeth like the scarf of her old costume. Damn it, even the hood with bunny-looking ears was there. Midoriya felt his left eye twitch before taking a long, deep breath, releasing it very slowly. Explain. Not even a compliment. His neutral face told her to get over with this. Okay. Well, since we all agreed that I would stay here, I have been helping the heroes and police department, as you already know. Go on. Just to let you know, thanks to me a lot of cases were solved, she said with a hint of pride in her voice. And in how many of them you were involved. That doesn't matter now. The thing is, I proved that I'm a reliable girl, and now Aizawa-sensei is thinking bigger. But nothing is completely for free in this world. So to talk about it, you asked for a costume? I'm not following. Nope, what I asked for was to get closer to you, but in a way that you can choose whether you want me around or not. We know you love me, but I can wait for your confession. And here I thought you couldn't be more out of your mind. How will you get closer to me? Simple, I'm officially a student of UA. I decided some time ago, Izuku. To make you say you love me, I'll be a hero too. Well, no one was expecting this. A hero? Really? Have you lost your mind? Uraraka, who got beside Midoriya when the blonde made her appearance, stepped forward, facing the girl. She didn't know what made her angrier, she getting near Deku, the costume she was using, or saying she would be a hero. Probably all of the options above. Himiko held her hands up in defense, but had a smug grin plastered on her face. I have never been more lucid in my life, I swear. What is it, Ochako-chan? Afraid of the competition? She leaned close to her ear and whispered. Or is it fear that I might steal him from you? Himiko said and instantly stepped back, dodging a punch she knew would come. The brunette was furious, and the only thing stopping her from beating Himiko to a pulp right now was that thin thread of self-control, tied only to the presence of the homeroom teacher. But before she could commit a crime, Midoriya put a hand on her shoulder. He told her he would deal with it. Look, I don't care about what crazy stuff goes on your head, but one thing I know, and you better remember it. You will never mean anything to me more than a problem. He didn't sound as fierce as he wanted. After a moment frozen, Himiko started to giggle. Oh my, thank you, Izuku. For what? I just went from living nightmare to problem. That's progress to me. I didn't mean that. I know, but I like to see things this way. Let's be partners. Izuku and Himiko gave him a wink and skipped away, leaving behind a group of fuming teens and Midoriya without knowing how to react. He hated when that happened. She always broke his serious attitude that easily, no matter what he said or did. Anyway, it was time to begin the match. The students of both classes walked to the main street divided into two groups that surrounded Hado and Amajiki. On the sideways, Eraserhead dropped some eyewash, in case of his students get too caught up in the fight. Since this was such an atypical situation, no one noticed that one of the groups consisted basically of Midoriya and his harem. Add Himiko, Bando, Todoroki, Komori, Kaminari, Takoyami, Rin, Tsuburaba, Fukudashi, and Aoyama. A full class for each of the top students from UA seems fair. The horn sounded, marking the start of this crazy exercise, both groups advancing towards the center where their opponents awaited. Hado and Amajiki gave a quick nod to each other before dashing into opposite directions, the latter choosing to face the team led by Bakugo, who came flying straight at him. Let's go, shitty-senpai. He didn't waste a second, and once he got at close range, Bakugo let out a big blast, quickly redirecting his trajectory with smaller explosions. Just as he expected, his attack was easily blocked as a giant tentacle grabbed the air where he was a second ago. The smoke dissipated and Amajiki looked up at him, a giant barnacle shell on his arm acting as a shield. The first to attack wins? Good plan if you have the element of surprise, but given your quirk, I doubt you'll ever have this kind of advantage. TSC, you do the same reading thing like shitty Deku. Time to hand over the crown, senpai. The king just arrived. Bakugo boasted off into another offensive and Amajiki side. He wasn't good dealing with the energetic types like him. On the other side, before beginning the offensive, Midoriya discussed a plan with Takagi and Todoroki. Considering their team and Hado's wave motion, they would have a better chance if they could hit her with range attacks. So Todoroki took the lead, creating an ice column to give Bando some high ground. Immobilizing her would cut them a lot of trouble. As a second plan, Shiozaki would use her vines to hold her since ice was too weak against her shockwaves. In the last case, a discharge from Kaminari would paralyze her. The rest of the team would enter the fight once Hado was contained. It was a good plan, except for the fact that it didn't work. The moment Bondo got in position to shoot his glue, a shockwave broke the ice he was standing and he ended covered by his own attack. The blue-haired girl reacted too quick. Seeing this, Shiozaki sent her vines forward underground, but Hado blasted the ground to propel herself up, avoiding the trap. Kaminari started his part on the plan, shooting his pointers at the flying girl, but she was surprisingly good at evading them. Damn it, I can't hit her. Hagakure-san, blind her. Got it. Ochako-chan, Aoyama-kun. The invisible girl dashed to the brunette, who quickly understood her plan and made a step with her hands. Hagakure took the impulse and Uraraka's quirk activated. Launching, she tossed her friend up high, enough to get close to Hado. Time to shine, Mon Ami. Aoyama fired his naval laser at Hagakure, who used her light refraction to disperse it in a bright flash that blinded Hado temporarily. To her, it came out of nowhere since the invisible girl went full invisible. She was gratefully caught by dark shadow as the zero-gravity effect was cut. Yosh, now I got you. Kaminari shot a pointer that stuck on Hado's leg. When she recovered her vision, it was too late and the blonde had her on his sights. Lights out. The yellow arc of energy crossed the air and hit the brunette. Hado grunted in pain as she felt the discharge coursing through her limbs. Losing her focus, she fell to the ground. On the other side, Monoma saw the light show from the corner of his eyes, then released another blast. He copied Bakugo's explosion before the ash-blonde teen engaged, against Bakugo's will of course, also having hardening and twin impact for close combat. His explosions didn't have the same strength of the original and his arms were sore with the recoil, but he wouldn't let that stop him. Right now it was time to use one of his other talents, shaking the morale of his opponents. "Oh-ho, it looks like your friend is in trouble, senpai. Shouldn't you go to her aid?" He got close to Amajiki and punched the tough shell, activating the second impact right after, but he barely made a dent on it. Amajiki countered with a tentacle whip, sending the now hardened blonde back. "I understand that you all are not very familiar with us, but you must be crazy to think she would go down with only that." They didn't see it, but the elf-looking actually was smiling. He knew she was just testing them. Actually, Mirio was the only one that went all out from the start. Okay then, let's get more serious. As Sun Eater said that more tentacles with barnacle shells manifested on his left arm, while his right arm turned into a single thicker tentacle with a crab pincer on the end. A round shape formed under his cape, a turtle shell, and his legs shifted into bird legs with sharp claws. Lunch Rush made a seafood buffet today. You guys are going to have a bad time. At the same time, the other team got close to the crater ready to tie Hado. Once they did it, she was officially out. But when Yaoyorozu, Gyro, Kendo, and Takage got closer, the ground shook and they were sent flying, just to be caught by Midoriya, Dark Shadow, and Tsubaraba. Thanks, Midori. Don't worry, Kyoka. Are you okay? Her shockwaves are really strong. No shit, my ears are ringing. She kept her eyes closed for a little bit. Midoriya, another plan? Todoroki shouted as he tried to freeze her in place to no avail. Man, how is she still going after getting zapped? Kaminari said, barely avoiding a shockwave. He was considering another discharge, but the first one was already pretty strong. He needed some time or else his brain would short-circuit. Ha 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 ha. That was pretty impressive, but I have a lot of stamina to spend. Did you know my quirk basically runs on my vital energy? Hado said in a way too happy-toned for someone who just blasted a pink-haired girl and a frog girl away. She wasn't afraid of telling them how her quirk worked, and she was actually eager to learn about these kids. She flew forward, landing in front of Takage. Nee, you can split your body, right? How many parts can you divide into? How do you control them? Eh? What? Before she could even process the questions, Hado brought back a fist. Problem. Takage divided her midsection just in time to avoid a wave-powered punch that hit Aoyama in the background. In what could only be described as fighting instincts, the brunette quickly turned and countered Kendo's double jumbo fist, charging her own fists with a shockwave. Oh, you make your fists bigger on the last second to increase the impact? That's so cool, and clever too. Though it was a counter to Hado, Kendo took some steps back. Once again her experience showed off as Tsuyu, using her camouflage, and Hagakure tried a tackle, only to be repelled by a shockwave directed to the floor, but it wasn't the end. By doing so she prevented Shiozaki's vines from forming another trap. You're quite troublesome. Hado casually repelled a literal blam and Rin's scale shots, flying after the vine girl. Shiozaki wasn't exactly ready for that after failing twice, but she extended her vines in a net to capture the bubbly brunette. Unfortunately, Hado easily destroyed the floor, breaking the base for the complex structure. Have you ever tried tricot or making knots? You could shape your vines in so many ways. Shiozaki was at point blank. That punch would surely take her out of the game. That is, if green lighting didn't come right on time. Smash! She didn't have enough time to evade, so Hado sent a weak wave through her arms to dissipate the impact. The wave was a little too weak. Are you okay, Shiozaki? Midoriya stood in front of her, guard up and eyes focused on the brunette. Eh? Why yes. She just surprised me. Thanks for the save. Don't mention it. Besides, you'll be important to our next move. I will. Remember that thing I showed you today? Her eyes widened with understanding, then she took some distance to get ready. Meanwhile, Hado looked with an odd face towards the green team. Wow, that kick was so powerful. I totally underestimated it. Nee, Midoriya, how does your superpower works? Is it a stockpiling quirk? Do you have to eat something? Where do the sparks come from? I can't really answer that. Eh? Why not? She said as she flew after him, trying to hit the emerald boy with shockwaves. I was a late bloomer. I don't understand how it works completely. This was the best he could think of while jumping around. But how do you control it? She barely missed him, bringing a wall down. I have a trick. I get an image in my head, and when I feel the power flowing, I just Manchester smash. She made a backflip to evade the axe kick that shattered the ground and took the opportunity to send him flying away, hitting a pole. An image? What kind of image? An egg, and a microwave og, and a taiyaki too, he said, slowly getting up. Those shockwaves really got your head spinning. When he focused on her again, Hado had the brightest smile. An egg and a taiyaki. Ha 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 ha, that's awesome. Ops, more incoming. A wall of ice almost reached her, but was quickly blasted away. Right after that came a jet of acid that she evaded by flying up. Then came a freaking cannonball that missed her by inches, along with glistening laser shots. She could fly, but it was only turning this into a shooting game with her being the duckling. The moment she landed, Mina came sliding and did a dropkick, while Kendo tried to power slam her on the floor. The brunette barely avoided the attacks, but she ended on the claws of Dark Shadow, who threw her into Tsubaraba's air prison. Hado was surprised for a moment, but she didn't let that dishearten her. Pressing her hands on the walls of the prison, she sent multiple weak waves in quick succession, making the whole thing vibrate and shatter. She repelled a great jet of glue as Bondo just freed himself, then took some distance from Rin and Ashido. On the other team, Amajiki was starting to have some problems. It wasn't too hard to block Bakugo and Monoma trying to blast him. Neither the two manly teens, Kirishima and Tetsutetsu. In fact, the only melee fighter that got to leave a mark on his shells was Kaibara, but they were getting smarter as the fight extended. He simply couldn't stand still or else Honkuni would transform the ground into quicksand. Oase already welded 3 of his tentacles, forcing the elf-looking teen to pop them out, and now Shishida and Ojiro got into the synergy with the hardened boys into synchronized attacks. A few minutes ago Amajiki had the upper hand completely. His improved Chimera Kraken got most of the students surprised, and he simply tore the group apart, unleashing a terrifying offensive with the tentacle beast that was his arm. The more clever students were quickly stopped by his octo-crab arm, and those who got past this, namely Kamakiri, Ida, and Bakugo, had to deal with a strong turtle shell. It was a balanced form, and it made things almost too easy for Amajiki until the explosive teen started to shout things to his teammates. Bakugo wasn't exactly an example of leader, but his calls were always on point, and with some tries, the team of mixed classes actually got a good amount of synergy. There were 2 offensive lines, Bakugo, Monoma, and Ida being a quick hit and run unit, while the rest of the melee fighters engaged with attacks one after another. A quick mention to Sato and Shishida, who were insanely strong. A second group kept some distance, but their objective was to slow him down or contain his movements. Shiro, Mainta, Oase, and Honkuni composed this unit. The rest of the team was basically arranged into a defensive stance, with Tsunatori, Kodai, and Yanagi working together to launch ranged attacks. Whenever Amajiki tried to get close to them, he had to deal with Komori's mushrooms and Kirawaro sneaking up on him traveling through the shadows. Seriously, what are those guys? Hado told me to not underestimate them, but that's almost ridiculous. Back to Hado, she evaded flying scales, jets of acid, and eventually some flying words, but something was off. They weren't attacking like before. It was coming from one side only, and not everyone was coming at her. Her eyes widened in realization when she looked where she was floating to. Shiozaki used her vines to create huge tendrils that sprouted from the ground in a circle, and Hado was right in the middle. With Midoriya's command, the tendrils started to whip at the center one after another, in a quick succession that forced Hado to us her waves defensively. The blue net focused for a moment, then released a huge shockwave around her, thrashing the vines. Right after a fireball almost hit her, and more were coming, so she had to fly away again. Thanks to Yaoyorozu's planning, they knew how to prevent Hado's counterattacks, not giving her an opening to take the offensive. Midoriya wanted to tire her out before dealing the final blow, hence why Shiozaki and Todoroki were so important for the plan. He also gave chase along with Dark Shadow, being the fastest of the team. The knockback of her shockwaves was considerable, but not enough to take him out of action. Of course, she was containing her strength. Pant, the kids these days are so cool. I don't have a difficult fight like this in some time. The blue net landed and paused, looking around as the group surrounded everyone ready to strike. So maybe I can use full power, Hado smirked to herself. Midoriya got a bad vibe from the blue net. Problem, everyone stay back. Todoroki. Got it. The icy hot teen cooled the air around him and ignited his left side, ready to recreate the trick he did at the sports festival. Shiozaki used her vines to belt everyone she could reach on the ground. Midoriya braced for the impact, ready to jump at the first opening. It was risky, but he had to try. At the center, Hado charged her next attack. The ground cracked as smaller waves hit it. I've never got to test this with someone. I wonder what will happen. Yash, get ready, you all. Orbital shockwave. Hado slammed her charged fists together, making the waves resonate and expand quickly, literally blasting anything and anyone at a 5-meter radius. Todoroki used his flames to expand the cold air, creating an explosion to counter the shockwaves, but her attack was fairly stronger, pushing him against the ice wall he created behind him and sending the others flying if it wasn't for the vines holding them. Seconds after the shockwave dissipated, a green blur of lightning dived into the crater. Midoriya jumped back before Hado unleashed the wave and took impulse on the wall of a building. He aimed an 8% Detroit smash at her, but she managed to avoid at the last second. Just as he expected. Midoriya spun on his heels and raised his hand, ready to flick a finger. Delaware Smash Air Force. He managed to hit Hado with the compressed air blast before being knocked back by a shockwave, hitting the broken floor with some force. Shit, that really makes your head spin, he complained while slowly getting up. Yeah, that Air Force thing hurts too. Hado held her sides with a hand, but seemed overall fine. Don't you ever go down? He got back to his feet and took his fighting stance, green sparks coming from his body. I need a lot of energy to keep using my quirk, so it's really hard to tire me out. she answered with a confident grin. Then I'll need to keep trying. Yayurazu. At his signal, she fired the cannon she just created, but it was loaded with Bondo's glue. At the same time, Rin shot more scales and Todoroki created a firewall to circle the area. The melee fighters joined Midoriya into another attempt to capture her. This fight wasn't the one-sided beating that Tagata gave on 1A, which was a signal of improvement, but seriously, the brunette deserved her place as the third strongest student of UA, and the best part of this extra class was that she was having a lot of fun watching her kuhai using all their skills to defeat her. She was having fun, but she didn't plan to lose. Maybe if I tone it down a bit they can handle Ring Wave. Boom! The loud noise halted her thoughts. It didn't come from Amajiki's side, and it was much louder. The rest of the group stopped to look at the source of sound too. More explosions were heard and smoke started to rise. Oi, who is blasting the place when I'm here? On the other first-year group, everyone looked at Bakugo when they heard the first explosion, but they quickly realized it wasn't him. On the rooftop of a building, Aizawa looked at the direction of ground Gamma and had a very bad feeling about this. The silence fell on the room. Even Emi's non-stop laughs died as Rumi exposed Cat Ruko. Shino looked away sipping her drink while Dragon Ruko pulled the collar of her shirt. Maybe it was the booze, but suddenly the room felt warmer. After 3 long and weird minutes, the rabbit hero scratched her head in frustration and groaned. "Aw, come on, not a single time." She looked at the blonde, who hid her face even more. Not even a quick one? During a party or something? She desperately sought for the reddish-brown-haired woman just to get a silent negative. Talk about crashing the mood. I don't think it matters so much. Dragon Ruko voiced her thoughts with a tinge of shyness. She had one more thing in common with the cat hero besides the name. I know, right? There's nothing wrong with waiting for someone special. Cat Ruko quickly came out of the shell she hid in once she heard someone citing her. I guess it doesn't matter much either. Tomoko didn't try to hide the blush in her face. Let's say that from the 4 pussycats, Tora and Shino were more mature. The 3 of them looked through the room and their eyes landed on the celebrity present, who looked back at them with an apologetic face. Sorry girls, can't team up with you in this, but it's your choice. I don't see any harm. Now Rumi felt a little bad for making a joke about it, so she tried to get some backup. I don't see any problem either B, but let's agree that by no we all should, have experience, right, Nimuri? The dark-haired woman raised an eyebrow when everyone looked at her with expectant eyes. What? Just because I go by the title of R-rated hero, it doesn't mean I get on the bed with anyone, she said bluntly. Maybe it was the alcohol finally getting to her head. But, you are experienced, ain't you? My personal life doesn't concern to you, but yes, Rumi. You can say that it was getting harder for Rumi to fix this mess. Sigh, I can't make a joke out of this. Actually, only dirty ones, but those are lame. Now it was Emi's turn to be the center of attention. Nope. I'm still as virgin as olive oil. I have someone in mind, though. Now, that was interesting. Someone in mind? Who is the lucky guy? Rumi tried to change for a lighter topic. Oh, Aizawa. Most of them looked surprised at the green-haired woman. Eh? Eraserhead? Really? Emi nodded, looking happier than a few seconds ago. Sure, since we were young, I had this crush on him, and it never passed, so I guess it's love. He won't admit he feels the same, though. That silly man. You have, a different liking for it? Emi-san Dragon Ruko couldn't see the 2 pro-heroes working together, let alone being in a relationship. The word you're looking for is weird. What did you see on him? Uwabami was skeptical. I don't know. Maybe it is his always tired look or his cool, I don't give a damn act to hide his soft side. All I know is since the first time I saw him I wanted to make him smile. This surprised everyone in the room, even Nimuri, who knew about this for some time now. Hearing her reasons made it much simpler to understand her feelings, and after some time working with a sleepless man, she had a hunch that Aizawa might be low-key tsundere. And you, Rumi, do you have someone to call special too? Eh? Damn it, she didn't expect to be asked that. Everyone said it one way or another, so she couldn't simply ignore now, right? No, I don't have. And you still called me a V. Ruko, calm down, Shino calmly silenced the blonde. It's not like I had never done it. I'm looking for someone nice too, but you all take that too seriously. Not much, Rumi. These kinds of things mean a lot, you know, Nimiri said, getting an incredulous look from the tan-skinned woman, not because she didn't agree, but because it was Nimiri who said that. It's a little hard to believe when you're the one talking. Whatever, as I said before. Oi, Rumi, that wasn't nice at all. Nimiri got cut by you, who pointed a finger to Rumi. Ha! What are you saying now? You wanted to show she was angry, but she was far too drunk to do so. Nimiri is right. This is something really important. Her voice was dragging a little. I didn't say it wasn't, I meant. No, listen. She has all the right to be happy, even if she looks like a hoe in her costume. You, as flattered as I am, you should let go of that bottle and lie down. I've got this, Nimiri. Everyone has the right to find someone special, even you, Rumi. I know that one day you will meet a guy that makes you feel the best woman in the world. Like me and MMFF. Okay, you're definitely drunk. Sorry for the trouble, Rumi. We're leaving. Nimiri quickly muffled the blonde's mouth and got up to leave. Everyone was looking at them, but something would end badly if they kept in that room. Wait. What was that now? Rumi got up and held the dark-haired woman in place. The others looked as surprised as the tanned woman. Nimiri forced herself to act normally. You know you has zero resistance, and we had been drinking since we got here. She's just speaking nonsense. Munafef, Nimiri, I'm completely fine. You can barely walk, now stay quiet, we're leaving. Oh no, you won't. We all heard that, and she ain't leaving before some explanations. Rumi then turned to the blonde hanging on Nimiri's shoulder. Spit it out, you. Are you going out with Kamui or not? There was a pause after Rumi made the question, apparently you trying to get her brain to work in the right way. Then she got a somehow upset expression, puffing her chest to answer the other woman. For the last time, no. Rumi even recoiled a bit, and Nimiri let out a relieved sigh. You heard the drunk lady. Good night, Evrio. I have my sweetie. Nimiri ran one hand over her face, looking at the grinning drunk blonde. Rumi dragged her back to the couch, with Nimiri following behind. Now you, I'm guessing sweetie isn't the name of your cat. Just ignore what she said, she's making that up. Let the lady speak, Nimiri. Nope, that's what I call my sweetie. Yeah, I got that, but who is the guy? Is it a guy? Rumi and the others, even Emi, gave a slight glance to the 18-plus hero. It's not a guy. They turned to Nimiri. She glared back. It's the best guy. The group let out a collective groan. Now can someone explain why suddenly my sexuality got doubted? The dark-haired lady asked indignantly. To be honest, you two are stuck together for some time, Shino calmly said. We're teachers at the same school. Speaking of which, does she even teach at all? Tomoko thought out loud. She's an assistant at hero training.
Yes, I can get close to my sweetie, the whole class you said between giggles.
Nimiri looked at her friend, wanting to knock her out immediately, but that would raise even more questions. Please don't say anything stupid beyond what you already said. The whole class? Aren't Aizawa and Sekijiro the homeroom teachers? Dragon Ruko asked Nimiri. Yeah, so? Then it's one of the two, Uwabami concluded. Emi immediately got up from her seat. Jay, just a second. You can't be talking about Aizawa. She looked desperate at the blonde. Pa? Eraser? PFFT, hell no. He looks like a zombie. He, zombie. So has an affair with Vlad King? Rumi taunted. Nope, the simple answer surprised the group. Then it leaves, Shino did the elimination process. The only remaining teacher of the first year that took care of the hero training was All Might, the group of women said in unison. Yu opened her mouth to say something, but Nimiri beat her to it. Oh wow, you found out her secret, and I bothered to keep my mouth shut, silly me. Well, we're leaving. Bye, girls. Thanks for the drinks, Rumi. And she got up, already dragging you with her. Luckily, the shock from the false revelation would give her enough time to get out. But I want to drink more, Nimiri. You had way more than enough for one night, seriously. The amount of trouble she had because you couldn't hold her beer. Ni, do you think Izuku is up to late night sec? You know he's always free to us. Just shut up for a second, you boozy mess. Damn it, I let that slip. I'm a mess too, ain't I? Oi, I heard that. Rumi quickly recovered from her shock, ears perking at that last piece of information. Nimiri froze a few steps from the door. So damn close. What do you think you heard? The 18-plus hero would deny it to the very end. Easy now, think before speaking, Nimiri. You? She mentioned late night sec. It must be the booze getting to our heads. She's saying nonsense and you're hearing things. Everyone here was inebriated and Nimiri planned to use that as an excuse. Luckily, by the next morning, they would barely remember that discussion even happened. Yeah, sure. You're hiding something, Nimiri, and I don't know why, but I have one question that you can't escape. Who is Izuku? Nimiri thought with cautious about her next words. Too bad she didn't think fast enough. Izuku? Isn't him the green-haired boy from One Shino? Tomoko asked the redhead. Oh, that cute boy from the camp. I remember him very well. Cat Ruko got up from her lap pillow, almost hitting Shino. But what does he has to do with you and Nimiri, you? You don't say. Izuku is my sweetie. Another word. Once again, the silence fell in the room. All the eyes turned to the giggling blonde, to who didn't seem to care about the situation she just got herself into. Okay, stop. Just because you don't want to tell us, you don't have to lie about doing it with a kid. Rumi sounded really concerned. Who said I'm lying? Asked Nimiri. You pointed to her dark-haired friend who was about to break her pretty neck. She's raving, I swear. Her voice was too shaky to sound convincing. Oh my God, were the only words Dragon Ruko could come up with right now. While Nimiri slowly sat on the couch, considering whether or not put everyone to sleep, the other ladies stared at the duo in silence. There was simply nothing they could say about this, except maybe for the obvious. Holy shit, is that for real? Do you two know he's a student? Like, still a kid, underage and all? The rabbit hero didn't know how to react, as the idea of, well, having sex with someone 15 years younger than you was almost too much for her. Well, the age of consent here is 13 against the 18 years of most countries, so if he really wanted, Shino did her best to say something, anything to cut that awkward silence, but it backfired. Cat Ruko got closer to you, a strong red hue in her face, and it wasn't only for the booze. Say you, did you really got to, with the Midoriya kid? Huh? What now? She was too tipsy to follow the line of thought. Did you, deep breath, did you get laid with the boy or not? Everyone turned to you again. They wanted to know the answer as much as Ruko, but probably not for the same reasons. Meanwhile, Nimiri cursed the moment she thought letting you drink was an acceptable option. The blonde looked like she was stuck processing the question, then showed a smug grin. Girl, you don't know half of it. We had been so much for the past week. That's it. You want to ruin everything? Then you can sink alone, Nimiri thought within herself. Leave it to you to fix the huge mess once she got sober. And Nimiri too. She may look like an old rag, but she still has the magic. Nimiri suddenly got up, glaring at you. I'll show you the old rag. It took Rumi, Tomoko, and Shino to hold the infuriated woman back, while you kept laughing. Calm down, Nimiri. Damn it, after getting laid with a kid you're mad because she called you an old rag? Rumi almost let go when Nimiri glared at her, looking like she wanted to beat the tanned woman too. Meanwhile, Ruko kept inquiring you as the curious cat she was, all that while Uwabami and Dragon Ruko watched the scene unfolding. In the background, Emi was slowly getting back to her laughing fits, leaking a little to Tomoko. For a week? And how it was with him? Damn, I can't remember a feeling better in my life. Sweetie is so delicious. She bit her lower lip, probably replaying something in her mind. Is he that good? Oh yes, he's a wild beast, but he's a nice boy. You should find someone like him, Ruko, that put some ideas in Ruko's head. Meanwhile, Nimiri finally calmed down and the others released her arms. She ran a hand through her hair before letting out a defeated sigh. Will it be too much if I ask you all to keep that between us? You can't be serious, Nimiri. Are you planning to keep doing that? Dragon Ruko said. So you wasn't exaggerating if Nimiri wants so bad to have the boy. Now I'm curious, Rumi said in a provocative way. It might not look but this. He's special, okay? Just don't tell anyone, please. Yeah, and I'm the Easter Bunny. The next thing you're going to say is that you really love him. Nimiri stared back at her, and those sky blue eyes spoke the truth. No way. He's what, 15? Actually 16. Oh, that's a lot of improvement. I can't even imagine what passed through your mind, but this is completely crazy, Nimiri. Unless, well, considering it was you, the kid must be well trained. It's not like that between us. Says the hero who uses a whip as her main weapon. Did you turn the kid into an M-type yet? I wouldn't do that to him, if he didn't want to. Shino put a hand her shoulder. I won't say I agree, but if that's how you feel, I can keep a secret. But I have to ask, why him? And how did you get him to agree with this? Let's say I did an offer he couldn't refuse. After that, we got so attached to each other, I don't want anyone else. You know these people calling us heroes crazy? They might be right. Anyway, to your happiness or whatever, Uwabami raised the cup in her hand and emptied it right after. Ni Tomoko, maybe if I sweet-talk Midoriya. He seemed a good guy, right? Cat Ruko latched on Tomoko as the blushing green head looked away. Are we going to ignore that 2 pro heroes got laid with a first-year student? Dragon Ruko didn't want to be one ruining the happiness of her friends, but everyone here seemed to be missing the point. Make that 3. You can stay as much as you want. Don't wait for me up, Rumi said as she headed to the door, but someone got a tight hold of her wrist. Once again, she flinched internally as Nimiri glared at her. Wait a second, where do you think you're going? Where to else? Yue, the tanned woman, showed a wide grin. I gotta see the boy who got Kayama Nimiri on the leash. 1. What do you take me for? 2nd, you're not going anywhere close to him. Ooh, she's jealous, don't worry, I won't steal your man, just have some fun now and then. It's a little price to keep my mouth shut. That made Nimiri hold tighter on her wrist, but then her face gained a defiant look. You'll end with a great disappointment if you think he's that kind of guy. Nimiri then showed a smug grin to rival the one in Rumi's face. But I'm curious to know, how long would you last with him? 5 minutes, maybe less? I did teach him some things, but he has a natural talent, the type that makes you want to never leave. Like I would lose to some random kid. He's not some random kid, and you won't touch on a hair strand of his hair. Geez, never heard of sharing what is good. All the embarrassment and shame she felt until now turned into anger. She wouldn't simply let that rabbit in the heat have her way with him. Not over her dead body. Shino and Dragon Ruko moved to hold the 2 before someone got the other in a headlock, but that wasn't necessary. Nimiri's phone rang and she picked it up, getting startled once she saw who was calling. Aizawa? Where's the fire? He never called except when it was an emergency. Wait. Are you kidding me? Where are you, and is Takeyama with you? He sounded a little breathless. She's with me, and we're at Yuzujama's apartment. What happened? Worry began to fill her chest. Bring her and fast, Tesk. The League took action. They are at UA. Her heart began to beat faster. The students? Are they safe? Not all of them. They came in great numbers and brought an army of Naomu. Stay back. Vlad, we need here, and bring whoever is there with you quick. The call ended. Terror began to pour into her heart. It was happening again. They would take him away from her, hurt him, break him, make him suffer, then finally, No, no, that won't happen. That won't happen. Her breath became labored and Nimiri felt dizzy, so much that Rumi had to hold her. Hey girl, calm down. What happened? What did Eraser say? The League of Villains, they are attacking UA. Right now? Are they stupid or crazy? The place is full of pro-heroes and students from the hero course. They brought an army, damn it. Is that why they were so quiet? Nimiri then walked to the U, who looked confused at her since the woman got the call. We gotta go, now. What? Where to? Nimiri held on Yu's shirt and lifted her from the couch, giving a headbutt on the blonde. Ouch, what was that for? For both of us to wake up. He's in danger. Izuku is in danger. The mention of that name and danger suddenly made the blonde focus. They need you at U. Right now, you. He needs us. Then what are we waiting for? With that, they once again headed to the door, Yu doing her best to walk straight. Everyone present did the same, quickly following them. Tipsy or not, they were heroes and the duty called. The explosions got louder and closer. The two groups halted the fight to look at whatever was making this mess. In the distance, some figures approached, apparently flying. As they came closer, their warped and grayish forms became clearer, and they heard what could be described as anguished screams. Gyro and Shoji could hear it much better, and the latter created an extra eye to confirm his worries. They knew that sound, and it wasn't a good sign. His eyes widened, and he turned to his teammates. Naomu, those things are Naomu, and they're flying to here. Oi oi, are you serious? Isn't it a joke? Kirishima really wanted it to be a joke. I wish it was. There's a lot of them, more than 20, but they look much weaker than the black one and those that appeared on Kamino District. That's not the problem. Amajiki released the guys he was holding, Shishida, Tetsutetsu, Kaibara, Ojiro, Sato, Koda, and Kamakiri. If there are Naomu here, then the League of Villains must be present too. Ha! They're crazy if they think I'll let them step on my turf and just leave, Bakugo shouted, his hands crackling with tiny explosions. Oho, interesting, a voice echoed through the air. Then please show me what exactly you pretend to do, hero. That voice, Midoriya tensed up. His worries only increased when Gyro said she heard something that sounded like the mindless soldiers and that there were lots of footsteps heading towards them. But that confirmed his suspicions. The League is attacking. Here at UA, did they lose their minds? Todoroki looked between the green-haired teen and the smoke clouds in the distance. Deku-kun, are you sure about that? Uraraka ran to his side, followed by Yayurazu and Takage. The League? Don't tell me they came for revenge on you guys from the lizard girl said, worry growing in her voice. I don't have any idea, but if it is them, they have a plan and an objective, and it probably involves us. Wait up, isn't it good that they appeared here? Think about it, the place is filled with heroes. They must be desperate Rin and the others reunited with the group. Not exactly Rin-kun. We have a school with many heroes in training, but few of them have the same experience that 1A or I have. This is a very dangerous situation. Hado looked at the flying objects almost getting to them. These Naomu had large wings resembling bats, and some had tails with sharp ends. Amajiki joined her as the second group arrived. Big problem, right, Nejire? Yes, what could they want to attack us here? Whatever it is, it must be pretty valuable for them. Seriously, these guys are getting too bold. Let's hold these guys until the pros get here. Both students got ready to fight. The brunette looked back and gave a command. You guys stay back and be careful. They can come up with a surprise attack. Wait, we can't let you two fight them alone. These Naomu already are strong alone, but with these numbers, Midoriya argued, but she cut his words. Don't worry, Midoriya, we can handle some mindless monsters. What you guys need to do is protect each other. He wanted to insist on helping them, but she was right. The priority was to protect his friends. He wouldn't leave anyone behind. He turned to her with determination filling his eyes. Understood. Then we'll... The voice echoed again in the air like a whisper. It gave chills to most of the students. I want to see how well you can protect each other. Shall we play a little game? And suddenly a huge circle of dark purple mist appeared above them. Their eyes widened as a crowd began to come from it, landing on the street they were and on the rooftops of the surrounding buildings. Villains, with quirks ranging from animal and machine-looking mutants to elemental emitters, strength amplifiers, muscular bodies, and many more dangerous abilities, all of them aiming to strike the heroes in training. And to make it even better, the flying creatures weren't the only mindless monsters they brought with them. At the end of the street, a crowd of brown-colored quadrupedal beings appeared, rushing at their direction. The exposed brains clearly identified them as Namu. You all know the objective. I don't care about hostages, so do whatever you want, the voice echoed in the wind again. To that, the villains responded by opening wide, sick grins and laughing. The young heroes were again in the face of great danger. Before the fear could freeze most of them, someone took a step forward and got into a fight stance. He shouted so everyone could hear him. Listen, everyone, cover each other's backs. That's the reason why we're training, to save people. We can't afford to lose anyone here. Both classes looked at Midoriya, feeling encouraged by his words. Then someone else did the same, in a more aggressive way. I'm going to murder those, you shitheads coming or not. Though even the villains questioned the moral alignment of the ash-blonde teen, Bakugo also made the others feel braver. Both classes got ready to fight. Meanwhile, on a nearby rooftop, the Erasure hero held his capture tape and put his golden goggles on. This guy really did it this time. I admit, I wasn't expecting you to be so stupid. Showing your face here, you must be desperate. Even when I bring an army, you keep being cool. The pale young man with hands all over his limbs and face said, scratching his neck. He then turned to the lean, dark, blue-haired girl with curly horns on his side. This guy will cut your quirk if he looks at you. Keep hidden until the time to retreat. She nodded and ran away as more villains got on the rooftop. Tusk, he's learning from his mistakes. Took a long time gathering an army, chose people with tactical quirks, and his grunts are immune to my erasure. Sai, did you come to rescue your little friend? Friend? Oh, you must be talking about Toga. Nah, that would be too troublesome. She's too unpredictable to be a valuable pawn. And now he isn't openly telling his plans, but he has yet to learn how to lie. But striking UA, a great symbol of the heroes' society in their own base, that is something worth the risk. Besides, I have to test my new units, you know. Eraserhead quickly glanced at the street, seeing the new brownish creatures and his students fighting them and the villains. They got separated into small units, but they remained close to each other, probably a plan of Yaoyorozu or Kendo. Perhaps both of them. Despite the situation, it took a small weight from his shoulders, knowing they could defend themselves to some extent. That said, it was time for him to take action. Sorry, but this is not some testing ground for you to play. I agree. Sandboxes get boring quick if they don't have many features. Ignoring the last sentence, Eraserhead dashed forward, tapes unwrapping as he ran at the thugs blocking the path to Shigaraki. Unfortunately for them, not being able to use his quirk was an advantage right now, as the mutant-type villains weren't particularly strong-looking. First came a muscular guy with rock-looking skin. Jumping over him, Eraserhead wrapped his face with the tape and pulled him down on landing, slamming the guy headfirst on the floor. A backflip to evade a woman with sharp claws, rolling the tape on her ankle, and he swung her around, hitting two more thugs. The next villain was basically a gorilla, but Eraser easily dodged his strong punches, then wrapped one arm right on time to redirect it to another tough-looking guy. He pulled the gorilla's head down and connected a knee to his chin. One by one Eraserhead took down the villains, and Shigaraki only watched nonchalantly, scratching his neck sometimes. Yer. That's what I get for sending low-rank units against a boss. Well, I don't have to defeat him, really. He got a radio from his pocket. Are you done getting ready, Kurogiri? Over. Yes, Shigaraki Tamura, the special unit is in position. Good, it was faster than I expected. Also, sorry for forcing you into this. Over. It is a good plan, though I wish you didn't insist on attacking them in their territory. That's not it. The overload takes its toll. You're a far too valuable unit. This cooldown will surely be troublesome. Over. Then make sure that this attack earn us great results. Sure will. Over and out. Eraserhead didn't like the way that chat went. He got close enough to him to hear it, but every time he tried to reach Shigaraki, another villain came in. They were just stalling him, which wasn't good. Any time he gave to Shigaraki was a time he would use to his plan. Eraserhead took down a half-bull villain by sending him headfirst on a water tank and drop-kicked a woman with wasp stings on her wrists. He ignored the next two villains and went straight forward to the leader, erasing his quirk, wrapping him with his capture tape and pulling him to land a strong right hook. The blow was so strong that it literally tore a hole through Shigaraki's head. The pro hero saw the body turn into a pile of mud, while the sound of Shigaraki's voice came from a small earphone. Sorry, Eraserhead. I can't let myself be captured at the beginning of the game. The scruffy man quickly got up. If the leader wasn't here, his priorities changed completely. Now there were 5 more tough-looking villains on the way to his students. The capture tape flowed around his neck. To all of you, you picked the wrong fight with the wrong school. Back to the 2 first-year classes and third-year students, they were handling the situation pretty well. Despite the huge numbers, these villains weren't extremely skillful or strong, but some had dangerous quirks, and the Naomu were another problem on their own. The most prominent students from both classes lead their teams through the battlefield, doing what they could to keep coordinated and close to each other. Well, most of them, as Bakugo and the Baka Squad were blasting through the enemy's army. Among the students, he was one of the few that could really fight the mutated creatures and bigger villains, along with Todoroki, Amajiki, Hado, Shishida, and Sato, so they were in charge of taking them down. The less offensive students made a bigger group in the center to help everyone as they could. "Ha ha, we're doing it. I guess we're winning, don't you think?" Kaminari said as he disabled another villain with a discharge. "Of course we are winning. Who do you think I am?" Bakugo shouted, then blasted a brown Naomu away, knocking 2 villains in the process. He then turned around and saw Midoriya dodging punches from a tall dude with tough skin. Bakugo blasted at his direction. "Get down, shitty Deku." The green teen reacted right on time to avoid an explosion. The villain was knocked back, but still remained on his feet, arms raised in defense. Before he could even think of boasting, Bakugo got under his defense and released 2 big explosions at point blank, cracking the hardened skin and taking him down. "Tesk, it ain't even close to Kirishima. Oi, Deku, don't get on my area." "Kei-Kachin, you're running around and—" "Then get out when I'm passing, damn it. Where are the teachers? App shot." The explosions must have set the alarms off. They should be getting here, Delaware Smash Air Force, right now, there. Suddenly, the street warped and many pillars came from the floor, hitting the villains. Some of the flying Naomu were shot, falling from the skies. Hound Dog entered the fight head-on, tossing people and Naomu around. Ectoplasm and his clones quickly joined the main group of students, getting a quick debrief of the situation from Takage and Yaoyorozu. On the rooftops, Aizawa managed to pass by the villains, finding Snipe and Vlad King. There were some ranged attackers that had to be dealt with. The heroes in training got even more motivated now that the pros arrived. "Yosh, you villains are up to a serious beating now. Acid Veil." Ashido melted some projectiles shot at her team. "Don't be careless, Ashido-chan. The fight is still going," Hado warned the pink-haired girl. "I know, but come on, we're totally winning this. Now with the teachers, it will be a piece of—" Her words slowly died as she felt an updraft. Above them, another cloud of mist formed, but 3 times the size of the previous one. Cake. From the huge portal came a giant mass surrounded by smoke. The students had little to no time to react, getting out of the way as fast as they could. The ones with less mobility had some help, like Shiozaki desperately tossing them out of the way with her vines, and Siro doing the same with his tape. Honkuni managed to get the ones on his unit underground by softening the floor, and Ida carried 7 students with him thanks to Uraraka. The gigantic mass hit the street and crushed the buildings around it, creating a strong wind. Now separated in 2 large groups, the students watched in astonishment as the object shrouded in hot smoke rose from the crater it created, letting out a low bestial roar. It was a villain. A giant villain. "Oi, oi, oi, what the heck is that thing?" Oase asked no one, eyes wide with the size of the villain that towered over the buildings. "How is it possible? It must be at least 40 meters tall," Fukadashi shouted. "That's twice the size of," Mineta shouted, pointing a shaking finger to it. Even the villains seemed shocked as they froze in place. One of them began to run away the moment the portal opened and the steaming body fell. Holy shit, what did they do to Vulcan? He never grew more than 5 meters. The villain beside her also ran away. "It must be the amplifier drug. Let's get out before he burns everyone here." That piece of information didn't escape Shoji's ears. He quickly told that to Ectoplasm, who was closer to him. Amplifier drug. So the League got their hands on it too. Retreat and regroup. If this works like the other cases we saw before, the effect will pass with time. Judging by the looks, this guy must be burning energy at ultra-high speed and... "Watch out! He's going to punch!" Todoroki shouted, clearing the way for his classmates by freezing the villains on his path. The gargantuan villain slowly raised his arms, more smoke coming from his body. The heat around him increased, and they could feel it from afar. The skin was pinkish with the temperature and had large red incandescent lines. Whatever this guy's quirk was, it was definitely dangerous. Then he brought his hands down, destroying the street and remaining buildings around him. That sent a strong heated wind and tons of debris flying into an indiscriminate attack. The students were closer to the center of the blast, so they ended being flung by it. Some hit the floor, other hit walls. Some got trapped under the debris and other ended knocked out. Hanging from the edge of a building, Eraserhead got back up and picked his phone. Where the hell were them? "Aizawa, where's the fire?" "Are you kidding me? Where are you, and is Takeyama with you?" When they arrived at UA's main gate, they saw the cloud of smoke in the distance. Nimiri's heart sunk in her chest as her mind once again made her expect for the worse, but she shrugged the feeling. Now wasn't the time to be desperate. They rushed in and headed to the source of chaos, and as they approached ground beta their eyes widened in shock with the humongous being destroying the place. They all looked uneasy at Yu, who froze in place for a moment. "Izuku is somewhere in the middle of this mess. Nimiri, help me get there." "Oi, you're not in shape to fight this thing," Dragon Ruko said with worry in her voice. They had to practically carry the blonde here. "Don't worry about it, the alcohol won't affect me in giant size. The relative amount to my body will be practically 0, Yu said with determination in her voice. "I'll save them, definitely." She took a few wobbly steps, then someone held her arm and put it around the shoulder. "Here, I'll give you a ride," Rumi said as she carried the blonde in her backs. "Eh? What are you planning? This will be too dangerous for you. Like you would do something by yourself. Look at this monstrosity, you need a little boost to take it down." You seemed to understand what she meant and nodded, then Rumi crouched and leaped forward at high speed, using the walls of the building to gain height. They quickly got to the main street, and the situation there was critical. Rumi quickly spotted the teachers and students, but some of the kids looked hurt while others fought villains to protect the wounded. The place was infested with those Naomu things, and right at the center was the biggest problem, steaming and slowly making his way towards the hurt heroes in training. "Get ready, you. I was born ready." Then she hit a wall and crouched, putting all the strength in her legs to use. Then she jumped, leaving a hole where she took impulse. "Go get him." Canyon Cannon. The students and teachers turned quickly when they heard a feminine voice booming in the sky, and a second later they saw landing a powerful flying kick right on the chest of the huge villain. She sent him stumbling backward, and he fell on the surrounding broken buildings, lifting a great cloud of smoke. The blonde, lacking her mask and purple horns of her costume, quickly landed and got up, clenching her fist. I'm here. At one side of the destroyed street, Eraserhead let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Now it was up to her, which allowed him to focus on other urgent things, namely the large group of villains surrounding his hurt students. Kendo, Tetsutetsu, Tokoyami, and Tsuburaba were trying to hold them back, but the villains had greater numbers and weren't protecting anyone. The pro-hero slowly walked past the defensive line, getting surprised looks from the teens. Kendo reorganized the students and evacuate. But Sensei, Don't worry. Our biggest problem is already on capable giant hands. Remember the priority. Understood. Tetsutetsu. Lead the way. As the students retreated, he heard the villains laughing, taunting him about facing them all alone. They even had the nerve to threaten to kill the teens. You villains gather into a large group and think you can simply walk into my school and hurt my students. His voice was low and leveled, hiding boiling anger behind it. His hair flowed up with the capture tape. Red eyes shone behind golden goggles. You better be ready. You just got the erasure hero in a bad mood. That bastard is getting up, didn't want to believe in her eyes, but the steaming giant was getting up again. Compared to her, he was not only taller but far large too, practically 3 times. But that wouldn't stop her, there were people depending on her here. I have to take him away from the kids, she said as she crouched like a lineman, then dashed forward, breaking the ground as she sprinted, and hit the villain around his waist to push him back. The moment she came in contact with it, she screamed in pain. Gah, it's hot. She managed to push him away for 2 blocks, breaking the buildings in the way, before he forced her to halt. She quickly let go and evaded a hammer slam to her backs. Looking at herself, her costume was burned where it touched him, and now her arms were slightly uncovered and a little red. You got into her fight stance, but then the villain received a flying attack to his head that made him take a sidestep. It was Rukiu in her dragon form. She wasn't as tall as, but her strength and durability would surely be handy. She landed on top of a building close to the giant blonde. This guy is constantly emitting heat. Do you think you can handle that? I have to. Try to attack at any breach you see. Dashed forward again, jumping to reach the face height of the villain and punch it, but he barely backed off. She shook her hand as not only he had hardened skin, it was too hot to the touch. On the street, Mandalay and Ragdoll helped the students to locate the wounded and retreat safely, while Pixie Bob secured a path to escape. Maruko dived into battle, eventually teaming up with Sun Eater and Bakugo, who got isolated from the rest to delay the villains. Minutes ago, after the first impact, a pile of debris moved to reveal a green mess of hair. Midoriya coughed as he crawled out of the hole he was. If it wasn't for the ice wall Todoroki created at the last time. Todoroki, Shiro, Tsuyu. He called for the ones that were close to him at the time, but didn't hear any answer. The place was getting on fire quickly, and there were chunks of building everywhere. Then he heard a faint groan. Rushing to it, he found a hand poking out under a piece of wall. He used full cowl and carefully moved it, revealing the dizzy form of Kodai Yui. Kodai-san. Kodai-san, can you hear me? Do you understand what I'm saying? Huh? What? Midoriya? She slowly focused on the green teen, making him feel a little relieved. When she tried to get up, Kodai winced. Midoriya looked down at her legs, and one of them looked swollen, probably hit by flying debris. It doesn't look like you hurt a bone, but you shouldn't move. What makes you so sure about it? She asked weakly. Experience. You would be crying rivers if it was broken. Here, let me help you. She got a little surprised with the answer, and right after he was carrying her on his backs. We need to find the others. Who was with you before? Yanagi and Komori, I think. Shiozaki saved us when this huge villain fell and we got separated from our team. Okay? Then we're going to look around for. Watch out. Midoriya barely avoided a stream of blue flames, thanks to whoever warned him. Looking around, he found a familiar yet different brunette with bobbed hair. Komori, are you okay? Where are the others? Kodai said as Midoriya jumped to where the girl was. Kodai, you're hurt. I'll live, but where is everyone? I don't know. I woke up dazed, and the first thing I saw was this guy with the ugly scars. I hid to try and surprise him, but then you appeared, and what are we gonna do? Don't worry, we'll get out of this. She looked up at the green teen carrying Kodai. He was smiling. Even though his eyes were burning with determination, he had a warm smile crossing his lips. How? How could he keep smiling like that when they were in such a dire situation? You're Komori, right? I'll get us out of here, trust me. Komori simply nodded, staring at the boy with bewilderment. Oh-ho? Are you sure about that? Turning around the corner, the villain with blue flames faced the students. Dabai had his usual expression as he held a blue flame ball. You shouldn't make promises that you can't fulfill, hero. Tisk, Komori, can you run? Not so fast. I'm going to let you run away. Follow me. Twice appeared on the other side. The kid that Stain respects. Should I really kill him? Spinner came out of the remainings of a broken building, carrying his cluster sword. Trapped? Wait, does it mean? Midoriya didn't like where his logic lead him to. If they sent the vanguard to find him specifically. If you gave us a lot of trouble. Midoriya. Izuku Shigaraki showed himself with compress by his side. His legs shook. Midoriya wanted to spring into action and fight his way out, but he couldn't do so while carrying Kodai. He was faster than them, but he would need to leave Komori behind. Damn it, out of options. Think, Izuku, think. All that destruction to get me? You're lying. He would try to buy some time for now. Good point. In fact, we're not here for you, but it could be a bonus reward. You see, someone you know has been talking non-stop about things that should be a secret, so we came to silence her. So they were after Himiko. Great, once again she was causing trouble. What worried him most was the size of this operation. Shigaraki assembled an army just to get Himiko. No way, there was something else. You're lying again. A stealth mission would be much easier. Maybe, but I didn't want to ignore the opportunity of making you heroes look pathetic after losing. And you? Midoriya felt a chill run down his spine. You cost me months of grinding levels and gathering decent units. All because of that little stunt Toga did with you. This is what the mission is about. Get rid of Toga, stain the image of the heroes, and most important, make you pay. Shigaraki gave a signal and Dabai launched a flame attack, but it was blocked by a piece of wall that suddenly floated. Spinner was knocked out cold and twice started to shout nonsense. Ah, Toga-chan, you crazy traitor, I missed you, my love. The blonde punched him and ran to the green-haired teen. Ochako-chan. From the place where Spinner was, Uraraka jumped and ran to him too, making Kodai weightless to help them escape. Yanagi also appeared, controlling some boulders to block Dabai and his flames. Let's get out, Deku-kun. Sure. Slow down, kids. Let me show you a magic trick. Compress got in their way, but Himiko reacted quickly by tossing rocks on him. Ha! You should know how skillful I'm, Tog-gu. She kicked him between the legs. I know, you always use your quirk, so it's easy to get you distracted with it, she said nonchalantly. Tesk, after them, Shigaraki ordered, then some brown Naomu appeared and followed the group. How did you get here, Uraraka? Midoriya asked as they ran. I was sent flying after the first impact. When this huge villain crushed the street, I hid on a nearby building and found Yanagi-san. Kodai, are you hurt? Asked the silver-haired girl. My right leg, but nothing too serious. I still can fight. No, we need to regroup, Midoriya said, convicted. But everyone must be fighting. We have to help them. Our priority is to keep everyone safe. We know their objectives, and the teachers need to know too. And I can't fight with my all when you're hurt like this. First, we make sure everyone is safe, then we think of a plan to fight them off. Kodai was perplexed. Midoriya was thinking way far ahead, not to mention he really prioritized making sure she was safe. If that wasn't being a hero, she didn't know what was. I mean, it was the right thing to do, and they all knew it, but when it was him saying this, it sounded different. They came after me, didn't they? Running a little ahead of Midoriya, Himiko said. He simply glared at her backs. Yes, they came because you were leaking information. Ha, I knew it. They can't be at peace without Lilmi. She began to giggle, earning a worried look from the three girls that weren't used to have her around. And they want to get rid of me too, just for revenge, though. Her laughter died immediately. Why? They only want to get her, don't they? Uraraka was confused by his words. Yes, but remember that the heroes captured a lot of villains when they rescued me. If Himiko didn't kidnap me, they would probably have an army twice as large as this one. He's angry at B because of that. Uraraka glared at the blonde. Always causing trouble, not matter the situation. Then we need to get both of you safe. I think I saw Ectoplasm Sensei nearby when I was looking for you. Really? Awesome. Lead the way, Uraraka. They made a turn at the next corner and passed through a broken depot, reaching the next street. But then they heard the anguished screams again. 3 brown Naomu jumped and cornered them, slowly getting closer, like wolves ready to kill the prey. They backed off in defense, then Midoriya raised one hand and got his 4 fingers ready to flick. Delaware Smash Air Force. The 4 compressed air blasts hit 2 of the creatures, but the third evaded and jumped at them. He was ready to punch it, even if he had to use more than 8%, but in the last second, a shockwave hit and sent it flying. Hado Senpai. Midoriya, finally, I found someone. I fought some villains on the way here. We should head the other way. That's where we were going to. The League is after Himiko and me. We have to keep moving. After you? But why? Long story, let's hurry up and... Get down! They barely avoided a fire blast from Dabai. Ah, let me go. Out of nowhere, a flying Naomu appeared and held Uraraka, carrying the brunette with him, and he flew up again. Right after Spinner attacked the group by surprise, forcing Midoriya, Kodai, Himiko, and Komori to separate from Hado and Yanagi. More villains appeared around them with more Naomu. Shigaraki looked at him, hands on his pockets as if he had already won. In the midst of flames, debris, and noise, Midoriya felt the world around him slow down. He was surrounded, with a wounded classmate and greatly outnumbered. He and Himiko were the targets and pretty much the cause of this massive attack. And the worst part, some ugly creature was capturing Ochako. It was taking her away from him. No, I can't let that happen. Inside his head ran a flashback of when they kidnapped Bakugo. The same feelings bubbled up in his chest, but 1,000 times stronger. At that time he wasn't strong enough, he wasn't fast enough. He worked hard to get better at controlling One for All so he wouldn't break his arms every time he saved someone. He came up with the shoot style and Hatsum gave him support items to help him go even further. So why this was happening again? His hand was reaching out to her, but he couldn't save her, neither those around him. I can't let that happen, not again. I'll save everyone. I'll save her, Ochako. I won't let you go. Something clicked inside him. Something powerful. A black shadowy mass erupted from his hand, dismantling the Air Force glove. It formed tendrils that rolled around his arm and torso and flayed in the air, then shot forward to wrap on Uraraka and the flying Naomu. What the hell? Shigaraki voiced his confusion. Everyone was lost, Midoriya included. Where that came from? Was it One for All? The sensation he got was the same, except that it was completely different at the same time. Well, whatever it was, it managed to reach Uraraka, and he began to be pulled by the Naomu. Midoriya sunk his heels on the floor and tried to resist, but he didn't have enough support. Hado and Yanagi jumped back to him and held on Midoriya, trying to anchor the teen on the floor, but that creature was stronger than it looked. Himiko and Komori also tried to keep him in the ground, but he felt something pulling that wasn't the Naomu. The shadowy tendrils rolled around the girls holding on him, and then the group soared in the sky. The black mass shrunk like a rubber band, and they were slingshot at the creature, flying over it and making a full circle. On the floor, the heroes in training and pro-heroes watched the scene in confusion. They suddenly heard screams from above. and what they found was a flying Naomu carrying Uraraka and Midoriya holding on it with some weird black thing. "Deku?" Bakugo shouted. "Oi, isn't that Nejair?" Sun Eater detected the blue net in the bundle of black mass. Maruko just stared. On another side of the battle, Midnight was already using her quirk as Yaoyorozu produced gas masks for everyone. Then she heard shouts from above and saw the scene. Her legs moved on their own, and she dashed after them. She didn't know what was that black thing, but they needed help. He needed her help. The black thing tightened around them, and he could see the Naomu was having difficult to fly. Also, Uraraka was wincing. If that kept going, they would end crushed. "Stop! You're hurting her. Stop!" He fought against the tension on his own arm. "Please stop, one for all." "Izuku?" He came out of his own world. Then a hand cupped his cheeks and turned his head to meet bright golden eyes. She took a deep breath, then looked deeply into his eyes. Her mouth shone a fanged grin. "I'm home, Izuku." That was something Himiko said time and time again when she kept him locked at that cold room. She remembered clearly of the way he shook just by hearing her voice. Saying those words right now when he wasn't exactly mentally stable, looking at him the way she did. She achieved her goal. He was back to the room. From the top of a building, Snipe locked on the target and shot 3 times in succession, 3 headshots. The Naomu didn't even have time to register what happened and plummeted. The black mass let go of it and shrunk back to the source. The tendrils unwrapped, and it all went back to Midoriya's hand, vanishing completely. The girls held the catatonic teen as they fell. Hado would try to soften their fall with her waves, but before she could do so a large dark claw caught them, and the brunette a little ahead. "Nice catch, Tokoyami-san," Hado said to the bird-headed teen, who simply nodded. Dark Shadow put them on the floor and gave a thumbs up. Uraraka quickly rushed to him and kneaded by his side. "Deku-kun! Wake up, Deku-kun!" His eyes were wide open, but he wasn't responding. Tears formed in the corners of his eyes. "What happened?" She turned to the girls, and they also didn't know. "He's back at the room, Ochako-chan." Himiko didn't show any animosity when saying that. You could say she was sad. Uraraka turned to the blonde and glared daggers at her. "So it was you. Before you beat the life out of me, why not try to bring him back? He will come back if it is you." She looked away while saying this, hands clenched into tight shaking fists. The brunette looked at him again, at his frightened expression, then got closer to him, cupping his cheeks with her hands. "Deku-kun, Izuku, please wake up. It's fine, you're not in there. You're here with me, remember? Your Ochako is here with you. Izuku." Inside the green teen's mind, everything surrounding him was darkness. It wasn't the dark and cold room, it was another place. Wait, just a moment ago he was at UA, so how? "Dude, you messed everything up. Didn't I tell you before? You're not alone." A tall bald man pointed a finger to him as he shouted. He used a black leather jacket and pants and looked like one of those badass bikers Kendo showed him the other day. Yes, it's time now, yeah, it manifested, but... The mysterious man poked a finger on Midoriya's chest, or at least where it should be, as his body was a shadowy form. "This power, it isn't something you can use with thoughts like this, right? Work harder, dude." Midoriya simply stared wide eyes at the man. He wanted to say something, though he didn't have an idea of what to say. He didn't have his mouth. His mouth. The man looked at his expression for a moment, then scratched his head. I guess you can't talk right now. Well, at least you got my power first. My Black Whip is a top-tier quirk, you know, pretty versatile. It is much stronger than mine, though, probably because of One for All." Midoriya kept staring at the man. Could it be one of the predecessors of One for All? When it activated, you were thinking, I have to reach them, right? That's a good thing to have in mind. But if you feel afraid or angry, the power will get out of control. These emotions are natural, and in fact, they are a great drive to make you surpass your limits, but you can't let them take over you," the man said in a calmer manner, but then his body began to fade into a shadowy mass just like Midoriya was right now. "Oh, I'm out of time. Well, that's it. Just remember these feelings, and you'll be fine. You're doing great, kiddo. Whenever you feel in trouble, remember that you're not alone. We all are here to help. See ya another time, and take good care of that heart of yours. The darkness around him swirled, and his eyes slowly recognized sources of light. His vision was foggy, but he could see someone in front of him. Ochako? Izuku. She embraced him in a tight hug when he said her name, feeling the weight of her worries being lifted from her shoulders. But as cute and sweet this scene was, they were still in a dire situation, and Hado was the one to cut their moment. Midoriya-san, glad you're fine, but what was that? Midoriya looked at her, then at his hand, trying to think of an answer to himself. I don't know, maybe some new form of my quirk. It never happened before. We have to talk about this, but later. You know, without villains trying to kill us. Just as she said that, a new group of villains surrounded them. The group quickly got up and ready to fight. Deku-kun, are you feeling okay now? I'm not sure if I can use my quirk safely, but I'll do something. These guys don't look like much trouble. If I had my knives, Himiko complained to herself. Don't focus on defeating them. Once we open a way out, we'll run away. I saw a large group of students and teachers when we were flying, the brunette said. But before the villains could make a move, Shigaraki's voice echoed through the wind again. To whoever is near the objective. Whoever gets it wins a bonus reward. The pale young man then grabbed a radio from his pocket. Kirigiri, activate overdrive mode. Over. Now, we don't know where Toga Himiko is. Doesn't matter, just teleport everyone. I'm calling an attack of opportunity. Over. Understood. The radio went silent, and after a few seconds, the wind started to blow. All around the battlefield, students, pro-heroes, and villains noticed the strong updraft. Up in the sky, another cloud of purple mist formed, but this time 2 golden forms vaguely resembling eyes appeared. The cloud swirled in a vortex, sucking the air and even lifting minor debris. What the hell is that thing? Maruko shouted after kicking another random thud. It's that shitty portal dude, but just got a huge upgrade, Bakugo answered, blasting a brown Naomu right after. This can't be good, and I have the feeling my erasure won't work on it, Eraserhead said while looking up, dozens of unconscious villains scattered around him. Maybe he went too far venting off his anger. Maybe not. First a villain 3 times bigger than me. Now a weird purple vortex with eyes, said to herself, hands and arms with light burns, her breath short. So far she stopped the humongous villain from harming anyone else, but she was getting exhausted and he didn't even flinch. On the street, Midnight kept running towards where they went. She went as fast as she could when the dark vortex appeared in the sky. Her heart told her she had to reach them as soon as possible. Himiko, do you? Sorry, Izuku, never seen Kirigiri doing that either. It's like he's... Her eyes widened in realization. What? What's he doing? Shit, Shigaraki is definitely crazy. We have to get covered. Why? Himiko simply grabbed his hand and pulled him away, but Uraraka stopped her. Where do you think you're going? We don't have time for this, we have to hide. Leave Izuku alone. Damn it, fine, just follow me before. They began to hear screams. Around them, portals appeared and quickly moved to engulf whoever they were close to. Many villains and Naomu were warped away to who knows where. Himiko got desperate and held Midoriya's hand again, but Uraraka didn't let her drag him. They struggled, each one pulling him in one direction. Suddenly, they heard a familiar voice screaming. Yanagi, Kodai reached with her hand, but the silver-haired girl has already been warped away. Right after another portal appeared under Komori and Hado. Their screams were cut bluntly as the portal closed. Izuku? Midoriya and Uraraka got pushed away and fell to the floor. He looked back in time to see a flying portal getting Himiko. She had tears in her eyes. She ran through the chaos of flying portals and climbed a pile of debris, finally locating the Emerald Boy. Midnight jumped down and ran towards them, but she saw a portal open and suck Uraraka away. Midoriya tried to hold her hand, but the pull was too strong. He jumped and grabbed Kodai as another purple vortex teleported a pile of rocks where the girl was standing. He skidded on his back while holding her on his arms. One more vortex opened above them. Their eyes widened. Midnight ran more than her legs allowed her, one hand reaching to him. Just a few more steps. Gone. She tripped and fell where he was a second ago. Sob no, sob. Midnight slowly got on her knees and elbows, hitting the floor with a shaky fist. Teardrops fell freely. The feelings in her heart translated into an anguished cry. Rua, aha! HGNN, you're finally GRR, getting tired, ain't you? Struggled against the gargantuan villain, stopping his fists with her hands. He stopped emitting a lot of heat, but was still incandescent red and steam came out of his mouth and nose. His size decreased faster as time passed, now with 30 meters, and he was significantly weaker. Too bad for you, I'm just getting started. The giant blonde took a step back, making him stumble forward. She crouched and closed in, connecting a powerful blow to his chin. With his defense wide open, sprinted and struck a roundhouse kick to his abs, making the giant blow steam from his mouth like a pressure cooker. Its size decreased again, and the incandescent marks became less apparent. So you're like a balloon and is cooling from outside to inside. In that case, she made a sequence of punches to the gut, blowing more steam out of the villain, making him shrink until he was about her size. His large body deflated to a lean figure as if it wasn't meant to be that high. In a swift move got behind the guy and wrapped her arms around his midsection. Mountain toss! She slammed his head on another building in an impressive suplex. The unconscious villain laid unmoving while got on her feet, victorious and tired. Gasp and stay down pant come on, who else wants a piece of? She looked around, but didn't see any threat that needed her in giant form, so she returned to the main street and shrunk to her normal form. She ran around a little and found Yayurazu and her team. She successfully managed to get everyone safe, and the unharmed students were helping Hound Dog and Cementos dealing with the remaining enemy forces. She came to the black-haired girl and noticed her distressed face. "Yaomomo, good to find you. What is the situation?" She didn't register the question at all. Her hands shook a little, and looking closer, she was pale. "Hey, what happened?" The girl slowly turned to the pro-hero, doing her best to keep a straight face. The warp villain. He launched an indiscriminate attack. Some of the students got caught. I'm making the head count right now, but I can't find Suyu or Mina anywhere. Siro, Takoyami, Mainta, Ida. I can't find them. Sob. Momo felt her legs lose the strength, and she would fall on her knees if you didn't hold her in a hug. Hey, SHHHH, don't be like that, Momo. You did your best, I'm sure of it. But sob you, I failed to protect them. Izuku said that our priority was to sob. I know, but by what I can see, even the enemy wasn't expecting this. There was nothing you could do to prevent this if you didn't know. It's not your fault. She let the young lady cry a bit, soothing her and running a hand through her black hair. Come on, wipe these tears. We still have a lot of work to do. Sob, you're right. Yes, I am. Let's go. Within half an hour, the chaos that took place in minutes was subdued. Most of the villains were either knocked out or captured, a highlight to Eraserhead for taking down almost 80 thugs alone. The Naomu were successfully disabled as Rukyu took them down and Bondo, Todoroki, Homekuni, and Awase formed a containment unit to keep them in place. Koda, Gyro, Shoji, Hound Dog, and Snipe formed another squad to locate anyone that ran away or hid in another area of the campus. Cementos lead another team with Pixie Bob to search through the destroyed buildings. Mandalay coordinated the makeshift medical bay, while Ragdoll took care of the hurt students, luckily a small number. No great damage was done. You joined the group of pro-heroes composed of Ectoplasm, Eraser, Vlad, and Rukyu. Are you all right? The dragon hero asked, looking at her burnt costume and reddened arms. I'll live. Anyone can explain yet what the hell was that? I'm not completely sure, but I suspect their goal was to take Toga Himiko away or silence her for good. given the last broadcast we heard from Shigaraki, Eraser said. An army of this size and a powerful gigantification quirk just to get a single person, Vlad questioned. Yes, their leader doesn't seem to know the definition of overkill, but one thing that he said was true. The fact that we suffered such an attack at our own home is very troublesome. Each move that the League does reflects on how society and the underground react. The villains are getting bolder and more organized, and he's learning from his mistakes. I'm worried about that new form of Naomu. It's the fourth model, isn't it? Rukyu said. There's another new variable. Shoji-sen heard some thugs talking about amplifier drugs. That would explain the abnormal size of the giant villain. Not only that ectoplasm. Put me down. Bro, chill. Maruko just landed next to them. In her arms, she carried Bakugo and Kirishima. Kaminari held on her backs. Whistle, great job there. Must have been a tough fight. Thanks, but what do you mean? The tanned woman put the teens on the floor, messing with Bakugo's hair, much to his anger. The loud guy here told me about the Warp Gate villain. What happened seems to be way above his power scale, so I bet he also used the amplifier drugs. Warp Gate? Yaoyorozu said something about an indiscriminate attack, but I thought it was a more localized thing. Do you mean more students can be missing? Dragged the fight away from the main street, so she didn't know exactly what happened. Cementos is already searching the debris and Snipe is tracking runaways, Eraser told her. The blonde felt a little agitation in her heart. Wait, where's Midnight? She went after that flying Naomu when it passed by us, Takage said as she joined the group. Vlad-sensei, we almost finished the list of missing students. She sounded really sad. Which way she went? To the end of the street, but Takage pointed and Yu was off. Aizawa didn't like the feeling he got. It was the third time he felt it, and until now it meant bad news. The blonde ran through the destroyed street, climbing over a big pile of debris. She spotted the dark-haired woman on her hands and knees, all by herself. Midnight, what are you doing here? Did you see someone in danger or, hey, are you crying? Yu slowed down to a walk as she approached the pro-hero. What happened here? Nimiri, did you see? Gone. Eh? Speak louder, I can't hear you from there. He's gone. Damn it, he's gone again. She punched the floor with way too much strength. Yu felt her legs go numb, but she struggled to stand on her feet. Sob he was right here. Sob I couldn't reach for him in time. Hick damn it, sob damn it, if I just... stupid, useless. Her fists were held back as her hands were red already. Her body was pulled up and wrapped into a tight hug. Yu's voice sounded broken, just like her. Stop it. Please, Nimiri, it wasn't Sob, it wasn't your fault. Yu, Hick, he was right here. Sob Izuku was Sob. I know, you did what you could, Sob. I promised to his mom I would protect him. It's not too late, Hick, we can still save him, right? Right, Nimiri? It's not. Sob, it's not over yet, right? The two women stood there on their knees, Yu hugging Nimiri to prevent both of falling apart. Nimiri slowly raised her arms that until now hung limply to return the favor to the blonde comforting her. She felt her shoulder getting wet, and she was probably doing the same to her friend. Sob, yes, Sob, this is far from over. Hidden behind the remaining of a wall, Rumi didn't feel like showing up now. Hands balled into fists. It was surely not over. He was a little disoriented at first. Going through the warp gate was literally a blink of darkness and a whole new scenario around him. His eyes slowly adjusted to the poorly illuminated place, and his analytical mind instantly shifted into overdrive, absorbing every piece of information it could. The warp gates also transported villains, so it wasn't exactly under control. He didn't end at the League's hideout, or at least where they were, and this place didn't seem like a prison. It was dark and humid, but the square room had 2 exits, one to each side, and they didn't have bars or reinforced doors. No one was here with him, but he wasn't sure if it was on purpose or... Where am I? Okay, there was one person with Midoriya, and she was currently resting on top of him. He didn't notice until then, but he still held her close to him, his arms wrapped around her in a protective way. Kodai looked around quickly and found the eyes of the Emerald Child. Those shiny orbs seemed to glow with an iridescent green. She felt the boy going stiff like a board as she looked at him. Kodai-san, Harem, are you all right? She stared at him for a moment, keeping her cool expression, then answered in her normal calm tone. Yes, my leg is still hurting a little, but I'm fine. Midoriya sighed in relief, then noticed she was still staring at him. Is something wrong? No, I was just wondering when you would cut the hug. Sorry about that. His arms moved away in an instant, allowing Kodai to roll over sit on the floor, wincing when she tried to get up. Maybe the harm was greater than she thought, now that the adrenaline was out of her blood. Seeing this, Midoriya got up and crouched in front of her. I can walk on my own, Midoriya. I just have to. With all respect, Kodai-san, I doubt you can if just sitting makes your leg hurt. We're in an unknown location, and I'm agile enough to avoid danger while carrying you. It'll be faster and safer, not to mention that forcing your leg could cause further damage, Midoriya said as he looked at her, insisting with words and eyes. The black-haired girl paused for a moment, once again staring at him with her cool face, then let out a sigh and held on his shoulders. He held her legs, taking care to not force the hurt one, then got up adjusting to carrying the girl. So, do you have a plan or any idea of where we are? My guess is as good as yours. It is probably a place connected to the League's hideout. I don't see why they would warp us to a random place. In other words, we should expect to find enemies around here. Yeah, I'd rather not risk a fight. We don't know their numbers or locations. Also, I'm concerned about the others that got warped. Maybe they ended somewhere around here too. Basically, we'll sneak around and search for them. Imichimim. With everyone together, it'll be easier to get out of here. Well, lead the way. I hope we can find them quick. Don't worry, I'll get us all out of this place. It's a promise. And so, the green-haired teen decided to take one of the two exits. A short hallway connected the room to a culvert, stretching to both sides as far as the darkness allowed them to see. Midoriya went to the right path. We don't even know where we're going, do we? Kodai said. No, but this way will eventually lead us to the exit. How do you know that? This looks like a sewer system. The water must be drained to somewhere so. We can get out through the drain system, she concluded his thoughts. He's really as smart as Kendo said. They walked at a steady pace, taking care to not make sounds and trying to notice possible traps or ambushes. Midoriya found a piece of scrap metal and Kodai had the idea to mark the walls as they progressed. This way they would have something to keep track of their steps. So far they didn't have any problems except for one, maybe 2 or 3 little details. The silence between them was absolute, so much that they could clearly hear the rats walking through the pipes. And of course, the proximity between the two teens. For Kodai, the major problem was basically being a nuisance to the Emerald Boy. She ended hurt, and he was forced to carry her like this. But for Midoriya, well, Kodai was a beautiful girl. He was sure of that now. He tried to the max focus on sharpening his vision and hearing, even any hidden precognition abilities, all because his tact was on overdrive. It's pressing on my back. Her chest. No, focus, Izuku. Now is not the time. From time to time he had to adjust his hands, pulling her up a bit, and every time he felt a warm and soft pressure against his back. If only he could turn his bodily functions at will. Shit, my hands slip as we walk. I can't hold close to her knees because that's where she's hurt and my hands keep slipping closer to her. No, definitely not the time. It didn't help either that Kodai was so athletic. The soft pressure on his back was distracting. Imagine the feeling of her closing her tights around his waist. He knew she was trying to keep latched on his backs, but she simply had to have those smooth tights, didn't she? Ugh, her costume doesn't help either. It's almost as if she wasn't wearing. Midoriya, I wasn't thinking. He stopped dead on his tracks to verify if he alerted someone, and because he wanted to cover his mouth. Too bad he had his hands full. Is everything all right? Why, yeah, sorry, I think I'm a little nervous. We have been walking for some time, but I can't tell how much. This whole situation is, well, he resumed walking. It's okay, I'm a little nervous too. Really? You don't look so. I am. Why wouldn't I be nervous about it? Well, when I look at you, you always look so calm and focused. It's like nothing can faze you. I heard that before. I guess it's natural for me. Back at middle school, I was given the title of Ice Queen. That sounds cool. No pun intended. At least it's a nice title. The way his voice died at the end got her a little curious and worried. Did you also have a nickname? I had many in my life. Most of them were, let's say I didn't have many qualities to be highlighted. I doubt it, considering all that you did so far at UA. Those were other days. I don't have anything special. Come on, it can't be much worse than Ice Queen. He hesitated a bit, but it wasn't like he could avoid the answer. He was carrying her after all. Regarding my personality, Crybaby was a popular one, and it was one of the best I got. The silence fell between them again. She shouldn't have asked. I thought it was part of your quirk when I saw you at the sports festival. That little joke actually got a light laugh from him. Yeah, understandable. I guess it's a family thing. With that comment, Kodai imagined a house with water pouring from all the windows as Midoriya and his family cried rivers over a sad soap opera or something. Also, she wondered if he was used to crying when he was just a kid. Expressing feelings never was a strong point in her. The silence came around again, and now it was really awkward because they started to chat. Add to the mix Midoriya trying and failing to neglect the sensorial stimuli coming from the black-haired girl, and you get an escape mission far tenser than it should be. Then something got his mind out of overdrive mode, a slightly stronger grasp on his shoulders. Midoriya, I'm sorry for troubling you like this. Eh? What are you saying? You didn't do that on purpose. I know, but still, that shouldn't have happened. I have been training and getting better. This is just silly. Despite her normal tone of voice, Midoriya noticed the sadness she was feeling. You feel that your effort wasn't enough, that you should have done better. How do you? I feel the same. Once I failed to save someone that was right in front of me, and from that moment on I swore that wouldn't happen again. But it happened again. He went silent for a moment, then continued. But I can't let that stop me. I have the chance to try again, which is pretty rare, so I have to do even better next time. This way I'll save everyone. I know to say and doing are two different things, but don't let that feeling bring you down. If you focus on it in the right way, it'll push you even further than you plan to get to. Kodai was speechless. Was it the voice of experience alone or something else? Normally, when you deal with a difficult situation and get over it, the same solution won't work perfectly for someone else in a similar problem. But what he said was beyond I was in the same place before. It was like he really understood how she felt, and that alone surprised Kodai a lot. Again, she wasn't the best at showing how she felt, be it in happy or sad moments. She laughed and joked and felt depressed like anyone normally did, but showing this was the hard part to her. Yet here he was, reading her like an open book, though he couldn't even see her face. Usually, Kendo or Tsunatori were the ones to ask if she was okay, and if Kodai said she was okay, they would believe in her, even when it wasn't exactly true. Ni Midoriya, can I ask you something? Eh? Sure, why not? Do you think I'm boring or something? Years of practice hiding her emotions naturally, and she couldn't help but sound a little uneasy when asking him this. Ooh, no, not really. I knew it. Wait, really? Yeah, like I said before, you seem always focused and kinda unfazed. It's really cool. But don't you think maybe I lack some charm since I don't smile or get flustered? Honestly, reacting in that way isn't a strong point of mine. Why am I telling him this? So, this is how you are, right? It could also be your charm. The few times that you grace someone with your smile. I wonder if I would be worthy of a smile of yours. He said that so naturally that neither noticed the possible meanings of his words. Well, Kodai realized first. She didn't know what to say or how to react. Once again her inability to express emotions, or was it because she didn't know how she felt? Surely that answer was so unexpected that it could only be how he truly felt. So how was Kodai supposed to face his true feelings for her? That could have a better wording. And while the girl entered into an inner state of denial, Midoriya finally processed what he said. But before he could have another panic attack and shout again, something caught his attention, a source of a noise coming from the dark that was ahead of them. Or did it come from their backs? He wasn't sure, so the green teen got into a defensive stance, looking to both sides and forcing his eyes to see through the darkness. Midoriya, what's wrong? I don't know. I think I heard something coming from the way ahead, but the way we came, maybe someone followed us. Hold tight, Kodai-san, we might need to make a quick leave, he said, already flexing his legs and activating full cowl. The culvert was large and tall enough for him to maneuver around. Considering Gran Torino's fight style, it would be a great advantage if he wasn't carrying Kodai on his backs. Kicks would end putting her in danger, and he didn't want to risk letting her aside to fight and have her taken away by someone else. The noise was getting closer, but the main problem was that he couldn't get the source of it. It came from the right and from the left, from behind him, and even from the water he was facing. Just what the heck was happening here? Wait, I know what is happening, Midoriya. Really? Yes, we can move forward. It's fine. But we... Kodai? Kodai, thank God I found you. From the darkness emerged a lean figure, a girl with silver hair covering one of her eyes. Yanagi, glad to see you're safe and sound. Well, not so safe. I almost got discovered by a group of villains, but I managed to spook them away. The atmosphere helped a lot. You spooked them away? Midoriya asked, a little confused. Oh right, good to see you're fine too, Midoriya. Yes, made them think the place was haunted by ghosts. I was lucky they were such wimps. Yanagi is a pro when it comes to scaring pranks, Kodai added. I have those spheres with holes on them, she said as the spheres floated to her hands. I use my quirk to spin them, and they make this eerie sound you might have heard. It's not really useful to fight crime, but Midoriya. She stopped as she noticed his intense gaze on her. He stood motionless for a minute, so she got worried, but Midoriya suddenly came back to life. Wow, that's so cool. Have you thought about creating other sounds? It might not seem like it, but messing with the mental state of the enemy can be a great advantage. The pale girl was surprised to say the least, not only because she was suddenly being praised, but also because the boy looked pretty hyped about something she did as a prank. Thanks, I guess. You two wouldn't know where are we, right? Not a clue, but we're heading to the exit. A possible exit. For how long have you been wandering here? Hard to tell, but I'd say half an hour. Same here. I came from that direction. Not too far ahead, there's a cross section. We can try the other two paths, Yanagi said. Then something popped into her mind. Midoriya, have you been carrying Kodai all this time? She didn't notice, but Kodai hid her face a little. Yes, her leg is still hurting, and I don't want to make it worse. We started to mark our path, so keep an eye on the walls. Maybe the others had a similar idea. Did you find some signal of them? Sorry, I woke up alone in a dark and humid room. I looked around for some time, and I even thought about calling for anyone, but that could alert the enemy. You are right. For now, we still have the element of surprise. We'll find them and get everyone out of here. His voice sounded so convicted that Yanagi simply believed in his words. So the trio resumed moving through the culverts, taking the right path on the cross-section Yanagi mentioned. She came from the left, and the water flowed to the path ahead. The awkward silence remained, but at least they felt a little relieved for finding someone. Their progress was slow but steady, and so far the worst things here were the stagnant humid air and having to jump over the water channels. Time seemed to stretch as they walked, and the long tunnels never ended. Honestly, this dark and gloomy ambient would be really enjoyable for Yanagi in a different situation. Midoriya, I can carry her if you want to rest a little. Yanagi finally broke the silence. Something about being close to Kendo's unofficial boyfriend made her slightly nervous. Don't worry, she's not heavy, and I think it's easier to avoid danger if I carry her, he said, focusing on the way ahead for reasons only him knew. From her place, Kodai playfully pinched his ear. Hey, I don't mind being called heavy, but I have been on a diet lately. Sorry, I didn't mean that, he said nervously. Yanagi was once again surprised. Kodai wasn't known for her sense of humor, neither for showing her feelings, yet she sounded playfully angry and even made a joke. With Midoriya, someone out of her circle of friends. Not that the silver-haired girl really took part in Monoma's rivalry with 1A, but it was odd. Normally both of them would taunt each other, and sometimes Kendo or Takage would drag them into a more social activity, but it was hard to see her acting so naturally with someone else. How did he do that in such a short time? She followed them automatically while her mind worked on a possible reason for it, so she didn't notice the small bubbles emerging on the surface of the water, following them from a distance. They stopped abruptly and Yanagi almost bumped on them. What happened? Kodai put an index in front of her lips. She and Midoriya were trying to focus. I heard something. Yanagi tried to sharp her senses too. The only things they could hear were the murmur of flowing water and their slow breathing. Such was the silence. Maybe it was just a rat ga. Yanagi's words were cut short as something rolled around her throat. In a second she got pulled away from them, being suspended in the air by a tendril. A blob figure emerged from the water, covered in mud and who knows what else. It began to shake as a low gurgling sound came from it. It was laughing. Who are you calling a rat, young lady? Ha 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 ha. Let her go, Kodai shouted. She tried to get off Midoriya, but he held her in place. Stay calm, Kodai-san. We have to act carefully. Mhehe, listen to your man. He's not an idiot as he looks. Now, should I have some fun with you kids before getting the reward? As he said that, another tendril came from the water and slammed on the floor where Midoriya and Kodai were a second ago. He didn't exactly see it coming, but he heard the noise and reacted on instinct, jumping to the other side of the culvert. Meh, pesky brats. The more tendrils appeared and started to whip at them, while Midoriya evaded with wall jumps, taking care to not hurt the girl on his backs. Not that Kodai was a burden to him, but carrying her while jumping was proving to be a real challenge, and to make things worse he could hear Yanagi struggling against the hold on her throat. He had to do something and fast. Damn it, Kodai-san, I have a plan. Really? What is it? But it's almost a bet. I'll need you to use your quirk exactly when I say. I don't like the way this is going. Me neither, but I can't think of anything else now. He made a backflip and landed some meters away from the villain. His eyes focused the shadowy form of Yanagi being strangled. Can I count on you? Of course you can. Yash, let's do it. Midoriya dashed forward and instantly jumped, avoiding the tendrils by inches. He jumped from one wall to another and aimed a vertical kick to the ceiling of the tunnel. Landing again, he quickly spun and flickered 2 fingers. Delaware Smash Air Force. The compressed air bullets hit the muddy villain, splashing mud all over the place. He waited for a little, then heard the low laugh again. Ha 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 ha. That was surprising, but you won't stop me with that, kiddo. My kelp can be pretty useless on dry places, but here it's the best quirk. The sewage makes my kelp whips hit hard as trucks, the villain boasted. By the sound of the water, lots of kelp tendrils emerged. I see. Anyway, thanks for the hint, Kodai-san. As Midoriya jumped back, Kodai, who held on a pipe when he kicked the ceiling, reached for the broken piece that was hanging. It was extremely had to use her legs to hold on the rusty pipe as one of them hurt a lot, but she could endure it to save her friend. The worst part would be falling on the water in case of that same rusty pipe break too. The hanging pipe increased in size and fell right on top of the villain, covering it completely. Midoriya tried his best to time his jump and grab Yanagi, reaching her hand as it was too dark to see. He quickly jumped up to pick Kodai. Now the three of them were together again. "Okay, what was your bet here?" Kodai asked the Emerald Child as she sat on the floor, feeling her hurt leg. Well, considering the way he attacked, it was either a quirk similar to Shiozaki's or some kind of viscous substance. I have seen someone with this type of mutation before. If it was the second option, the pipe wouldn't work at all. And if it didn't work? I would use Air Force to disperse the villain and delay him while you two ran away. Good thing it was the first option. Your backup plan is stupid. Eh? Why? Because in it, you sacrifice yourself. Didn't you promise to get everyone out of here? That includes you. She didn't know why, but hearing that made her slightly angry. They all were heroes in training here. But perhaps it was the idea of not seeing him again, rather than just leaving someone behind. Such was her confusion that she couldn't help but sound angry when she said that. Her emotions were slowly leaking through her chill personality. At the same time, Midoriya took her words to the heart. She was right, he couldn't simply go down here. There were lots of people counting on him and waiting to see him safe and sound. He had been training to keep save himself too. But before he could say anything, Midoriya was pushed aside. Yanagi moved him out of the way and ended being captured by tendrils and pushed to the water. While Kodai called for her friend, Midoriya moved on instinct and jumped after her. If it was already hard to see before, now Yanagi was in complete darkness. She could barely keep her eyes open in this dirty water, but wouldn't help anyway. She fought against the tendrils, holding her wrists and ankles as more rolled tight around other parts of her body. She could feel her body being dragged to the bottom of the channel. Her lungs began to ache for air. She knew she couldn't panic, but the thought that she would die at the bottom of a sewer completely alone shook her to the core. Forget the haunted houses, creepypastas, urban legends, myths of indescribable horror. This was the real life. And ironically, it was the end of her own life. Yanagi would cry if she could, and would scream too. It was simply pathetic. She didn't get to accomplish anything really meaningful. Or maybe she did. She saved Midoriya, didn't she? That way he could keep going with Kodai, find the others, and get out of here. The pro-heroes would rescue them and everything would end well. The boy could turn into a great hero one day and save many, all because she saved him first. It would be pretty cool if that happened, but she wasn't sure. She wanted to believe that would happen because this way she could at least go not feeling useless. Yanagi tried to believe in that idea with all her might, but she just couldn't. Something else made her heart pound desperately. Something kept her away from accepting dying here. He said he would save everyone. Midoriya said he would save everyone, and it included her. Her heart believed in his words, and she wished he would come to rescue her. Then she felt a different touch. Something else besides the kelps was pushing her up. Midoriya struggled against the tendrils holding Yanagi. He was lucky to dive at the exact place she was dragged to, because he couldn't see a meter ahead of him. Not that keeping his eyes open in this muddy water would be productive anyway. He swam down, found her, then held on the girl's waist and started to break the tendrils holding her. They were pretty tough for aquatic plants, but with full cowl he didn't have much problem. The worst part was getting back to the surface, as he was sure the villain would keep trying to drag them to the bottom. Underwater, 8% wouldn't be enough to take the villain, and he was almost on his breath limit, so he decided to take a drastic measure. Midoriya held tight on Yanagi on he broke the last kelp whips and aimed a hand to the incoming tendrils. This would either work perfectly or end up really bad. He held his middle and ring finger behind the thumb, then let out a 100% Delaware smash. The powerful flick created a blade of pressurized water that hit the bottom, causing a lot of damage. It also pushed them towards the surface. With full cowl increasing his strength and speed, Midoriya swam to the surface like a bullet, even though he was holding Yanagi. On the tunnel, looking desperately at the dark water, Kodai noticed some bubbles coming up, and then Midoriya emerged with a huge splash, carrying Yanagi with him, much to her relief. She helped them get out of the water and Midoriya laid Yanagi on the floor, checking if her heart was beating. The heart was fine, but she wasn't breathing, so he removed her mask, pinched her nose and opened her mouth, blowing air into her lungs, then put his hands in the middle of her chest and applied pressure repeatedly. The silver-haired girl started to cough and some water came out. Her breath was erratic, but she was safe now. In the dark and disoriented, she could barely see the person in front of her, but she knew who it was. He really came to save me, Yanagi thought as she tried to sit, but her arms were wobbly. Easy there, Yanagi-san, you're safe now, the green-haired teen said as he lent her a hand. She took deep breaths to steady her heartbeat. Once she felt better, she turned to his general direction. Thank you, Midoriya. I thought it was the end for me. Don't mention it. You also saved me back there. She remained silent for a moment. Yanagi was really out of words and out of the world too. He didn't even think to jump after her. Sure, any of her friends would have come to rescue her, but still Midoriya wasn't someone close to her. They didn't even talk. Yanagi never was a fan of those fairy tales with princes and knights in shiny armor that came to save the damsel in distress, as they were too cliché to her and not interesting at all. Her likings were more to the occult, shadowy conspiracies, and the little terrors that haunt people on a daily basis, being alone, the dark, eerie noises, and seeing things. Despite that, the silver-haired girl couldn't help but feel like she was a princess, and she just got saved by a knight in green armor. Midoriya was going to out Kodai on his backs again, but then seemed to be in thought. Yanagi-san, if you still feel dizzy, I can carry you too. Eh? Why? I can walk and… It's just a suggestion. I wondered if you wouldn't be a little exhausted after drowning, but if you're okay then, I shouldn't have said it. He mumbled the last part. Yanagi got up, or at least she tried. Like it or not, her legs were trembling. She might be okay, but her body was still shocked since it was the closest she got to death. She shouldn't do this, and deep inside, she didn't even know why, but Yanagi decided to take his offer, denying the faint wish to be carried like Kodai. I suppose I'm still not fully recovered, if it ain't asking too much then. Not at all. I'll feel better knowing both of you are in the best shape possible, he said naturally, crouching so Yanagi could hold on his shoulders and get on his backs. I'll just need you to hold on me, my hands will be occupied. Now, excuse me, Kodai-san, he said, then lifted Kodai in his arms bridal style, which obviously surprised the black-haired girl. She wanted to protest, but not really. Good thing it was dark here, otherwise everyone would notice the blush in her face. She knew she was blushing because her face was hot and her face never felt hot like this. On the back, Yanagi had a small pout. Now she wanted to change places with Kodai, but of course she denied that thought. Hey, Yanagi Ryuko wanting to get a ride on the arms of Kendo's cute and handsome boyfriend. What a joke. I find him cute and handsome. Well, it's not a lie. Kendo has good taste. Why, yeah, there's nothing wrong with thinking he's cute. Her words didn't convince even herself. As they resumed their mission to get out of this place, Midoriya instantly regretted offering to carry Yanagi. Her costume was basically a kimono, so there wasn't much separating his backs from her chest, and there was also the fact that they were drenched, so it was actually worse than carrying Kodai, even if Yanagi's bosoms seemed smaller and… Focus on something else, he shook his head quickly. The water in their clothes made them feel cold. While Midoriya didn't mind it at all, having other things occupying his mind, Yanagi shuddered a bit and instinctively held closer to him, pressing herself further on his backs as it acted as a source of warmth. Of course, the Emerald Boy noticed that, and some other things. Yanagi-san is bigger than she appears to be, probably because of her posture. So it's like Tsu, if she gets her back straight you get unexpected big shit. Stop thinking about it, Izuku. This would be a long trip. After walking for more half an hour or so they found something interesting. The culvert had a huge opening in one of the walls that lead to what looked like a cave. Deciding to check that up, Midoriya jumped up and began to climb the light acclivity, still firmly holding the two girls. It was a little tricky because there was some water running down the rock, but he managed to get to the top. Here they finally got rid of the stagnant air as it flowed here. That was a good sign. There was an exit nearby. Also, the walls of the cave had some luminous blue crystals poking out, so at least they had light, even if dim. The trio followed through the cave, Midoriya's feet making a faint sound as he walked on the tiny stream of water. They reached a wide open area, the ceiling a few meters above them and sustained by large columns. There were even some machines to make the air circulate and lamps to illuminate the place. This must be some kind of mine. Look, there are some rails over there, Kodai pointed to the side. Then we got warped to a place far from the city, Yanagi concluded. That doesn't sound good. The help could take hours to arrive, assuming they even know where to search, Midoriya said. He began to consider that they wouldn't have any help from the pros to get out. Suddenly, Yanagi noticed something oddly familiar. Kodai, look. Inoki. She brought their attention to a group of white thin long mushrooms sprouting from a wooden support column. The place is quite humid. Of course some mushrooms would sprout, Midoriya said, not quite following her. Yeah, but this is an inokatake. These mushrooms grow on trees in the forest, not in caves, Kodai continued the line of thought. Huh, how do you know that? Well, Yanagi and I know someone who's the expert when it comes to mushrooms. And like a magic spell, hasty footsteps were heard coming from one of the tunnels connected to the main room they were. Midoriya got ready to fight, though he didn't let go of the two ladies. How did he plan to fight like this was a mystery, but he wouldn't need to worry about it as two known persons came out of the tunnel, one with long blue hair that made curls around the waist, and other that looked like a fungus-themed witch. Hado-senpai. Komori, shouted the two girls as they saw the brunette. Guys, good to see you, came from Hado. Once she laid eyes on them, Komori didn't stop running. In fact, she ran even faster to meet them, and well, it was a rough meeting. She practically tackled them to the floor, which wasn't really hard when Midoriya had Yanagi on his backs and Kodai on his arms. Now they were all lying on the floor, Komori on top of the pile and holding on him as if her life depended on it. I thought I wouldn't see you again, the brunette cried as the three teens tried to hug her in any way possible. It's okay, Komori, we're fine. But can you please get up? You're kind of hurting my hurt leg, Kodai said, and winced when her friend quickly got up. Midoriya, you're not. The featherweight. I thought you were, Yanagi struggled to speak, being the base of the pile. Sorry, Yanagi-san. He got up in a single move, still holding Kodai on his arms. I'll say you all are pretty cheerful for someone who was teleported to God knows where. Hado said that, but she also had a smile crossing her lips. It was definitely good to see the whole situation didn't affect them in a negative way. They had to keep their spirits up. While the brunette joined them, Komori hid her face under her mushroom's hat. She felt so embarrassed about what just happened that she couldn't look at their faces right now. I can't believe I said that. Now, with two more people in the group, they focused on their next steps. Midoriya explained what happened so far and how they got here, including the fight against the sewer villain. On her side, Hado told them she was warped with Komori to a cave. They tried to look around for someone but ended encountering villains too. They weren't particularly strong, but the brunette had to contain herself, otherwise she could cause the cave to crumble. Luckily for me, Komori here is a dangerous opponent in closed spaces. She gave me a mask and told me to stay back, and in minutes the tunnel and the villains were covered in mushrooms. Do you really remember every single scientific name of the mushrooms you grow? How many different types can you make? Do you have some kind of block with a particular species? What's your favorite fungus? The brunette backed off a little with the spree of questions, managing to answer the last out of habit. L. lentinula edodes. Shiitake is a classic. The round cap looks cute and I love the taste. A response at the hype level of Hado. But Senpai is making it sound better than what happened. I didn't do much. Some of the villains had fire and acid quirks, so the little ones didn't stand a chance. Poor Yellow Knight and Inkai Cap. It was hard to tell if Komori was depressed about her usefulness or because of the fallen fungi friends. I don't think so. She looked up to the green-haired teen as he spoke, unconsciously focusing on his emerald shiny eyes. Even Hado-senpai was impressed. Plus, I believe you two wouldn't get here safe if you weren't capable of helping. Komori simply stared at him, her mouth slightly open, while she absorbed his words. Was he praising her for something he didn't see? Really, she didn't do anything special, just spread the spores and keep them humid. The caves had streams of water running through the tunnels, so it wasn't that hard, and as she said, some villains could get rid of her shrooms pretty easily. Yes, she made a lot of bad guys scream like kids when they got covered in mushrooms. Yes, she knocked down a large group by making shrooms grow in their lungs. Yes, she threatened to use poisonous mushrooms when they got surrounded, when she actually planned to use a simple hallucinogen like Amanita muscaria. But it wasn't anything to be impressive. Actually, it does sound really impressive, Midoriya said. Eh? Did you hear that? Yes, you began to mumble something. I know how it is, he said, putting a hand on her shoulder. She looked at it, then at him again, being caught in his warm smile. It wasn't hard at all. I love my quirk, but I can't do cool things like you do, she said shyly. Just because you don't have a flashy quirk, it doesn't mean you can't do cool things. That doesn't make you any less helpful or important. I important? Yes, I know there are lots of persons counting on you. I'm one of them. He shone his bright smile again, and Kanoko swore she was looking at the sun. Her heart beat out of rhythm, and her stomach twisted in knots. She was pretty familiar with the sensation, but she wasn't supposed to feel like that again. That's really sweet, but we should keep moving, right? At this rate we can find everyone and get out sooner than we thought, Kodai said, feeling a little awkward for being literally in the middle of their little chat. Midoriya simply wouldn't get tired of carrying her. Breaking out of her trance, only now Komori registered that Kodai was looking quite comfy being on his arms like a bride. She blinked twice, trying to ignore the new feeling that just sprouted in her. My Midoriya-san, why are you carrying Kodai like this? Oh, well, her leg is hurt and I didn't want it to get worse. And, for how long have you been walking around like this? It's hard to tell. We ended in the same room. An hour, maybe. Oh, an hour. Yeah, that's a lot of time. Don't you feel tired or something? Her voice was betraying her smile. Now is not the best time, Kanoko. Keep the happy face. Oh, weren't you giving Yanagi-san piggyback ride when we met you? Hado asked nonchalantly. That. After the fight with the sewer villain, I got a little shocked, so Midoriya offered to carry me for a while, Yanagi said, looking slightly away from the green teen. You look fine now. That's good. Komori didn't sound as nice as she wanted to. Then we should keep moving. Hado-senpai, these tunnels lead to somewhere? Midoriya asked the brunette. I don't know. It seems like a cave system. Some of the tunnels make turns and end on another tunnel, or where they started. The cave doesn't seem completely natural. If it is a mine, then there must be an exit. Maybe, but I don't know if we can use it. Every path that leads upwards was blocked at some point by huge boulders. I guess we're stuck at this lower level. In that case, we can go back to my plan of finding the drain of the sewer system. Do you think someone else could be here? We searched a lot, and the only people we found were the bad guys. I made a lot of noise some time ago, so it could have alerted more enemy forces. Then we should hurry. The problem is that the sewers are too dark. We found some old oil lamps at another cave. We can use that, Komori suggested, then rushed to pick the lamps, getting back with 2 dusty glass lamps with black iron encasing. Awesome. This will make things much easier. Well done, Komori-san, Midoriya said to the brunette, who suddenly found the floor very interesting. It's not tea, thanks. It took them some time to light the lamps, but once they did, the group returned to the sewers. Yanagi led the group, holding 1 lamp. Midoriya was after her, with Kodai on his backs again. Komori followed them close, holding the other lamp, and Hado was the last to protect the rear guard. As they silently walked, Komori glanced sometimes at the duo in front of her. She looked at the boy and wondered what were the chances of accidentally slipping and twisting her ankle. "No, you can't do that, focus Kanoko." She shook her head to forget the feelings that were bubbling up inside her chest. Komori buried them for a good reason, and now was definitely not the time to dig them up. But looking at him, being so close yet so far, she couldn't help it. Almost a year ago, she was spending some time at the house of her aunt. Her family just moved to a new house, and she was waiting for her things to arrive. Komori had always been a shy girl, and she was afraid of talking with other kids when she got to a new place, taking time to get used to the ambient. It wasn't different now, and instead of hanging with other persons she met, the brunette chose to spend her time wandering around the city enjoying one of her hobbies, finding mushrooms. It was a difficult task sometimes, but she would get a feeling of satisfaction after finding the tiniest shroom in the most unexpected place. Under a park bench, behind a trash can, even inside a broken washing machine, the possibilities were virtually endless. The brunette heard from her parents that they could spend a day at the beach, but her aunt was quick to deny the idea. Some people started to litter the place, and now the beach was like a huge dump. Well sounded more interesting now to the young girl, and so Komori headed to Daigaba Municipal Beach, eager to begin her shroom-tastic adventure and find many fungi friends. She searched the place on the internet, and it was actually really sad to see it so full of trash, but no one seemed to care as they let the situation get to this point. It wasn't asking much, just don't throw your trash there and maybe clean a little. If everyone helped a bit, the problem would vanish in no time. No one was going to do all the work alone. I could pick up so recyclable trash after finding some cute friends and... Her words slowly died as she arrived at the beach. Amazing, she could actually see the ocean. It didn't make any sense. The pictures she saw on the internet were recent, 5 months tops. If nothing, she expected to find even more trash in that illegal dump, not the opposite. There was still a lot of things littering the place, but it was definitely much cleaner than before. Maybe she underestimated the goodwill of the citizens around here. Anyway, Komori stepped on the sand and began her adventure, looking inside rusty fridges and other home appliances, old tires, even an abandoned car. And she was achieving success, though most of the times it was just small Pluricibella porigens and Pholiota microspora and angel wings and Namco. Gotta do my research. Then she heard some noise in the distance, noises of metal being bent or dragged. Curiosity took over her, and she briefly paused her shroom-tastic adventure to see what was it. Komori walked through the dumped trash, following the noise that became slightly louder, now hearing voices and grunts. She reached a more clean section of the beach and found the source of noise, a kid, probably around her age, struggling to drag a heavy-looking washing machine. The brunette instinctively hid behind a pile of tires, watching carefully as the boy moved the heavy object. And on top of a car stood a blond man with a skeletal figure, baggy pants, and a large hood. He shouted to encourage the green-haired boy. "Fight, young Midoriya, you're halfway to the truck." Komori noticed the marks in the sand, and indeed they lead to nearly the water, so this boy had been dragging that thing for some time now. Or maybe not, because she looked again and he was actually making progress fast. The young girl was impressed to see someone that looked so scrawny displaying such strength. Training clothes could be very deceiving. "You're doing fine, young man, but remember our deadline is in 5 months. "Understood, Rua." She didn't know what was his objective doing this, but he seemed determined to achieve it. Komori left the two without being noticed and headed back home, her mind occupied with the green-haired boy. Once there, she saw her aunt and decided to ask. "Me, aunt, you said the beach turned into an illegal dump earlier, right? Everyone helps to clean it?" "Ha, clean? Not that I know. The prefecture removed the garbage sometimes, but more appeared on the next week, so they gave up. And no one does anything to stop it." "Well, it's a lot to clean up, and I can't think of someone willing to do the hard work. We kind of got used to it," the woman said, scratching her head. Komori walked off with disbelief in her face. That kid wasn't cleaning the beach alone. There was no way he could be doing it. She felt that she had to learn more about this and about that unknown kid, so during the next week, the brunette searched around for any volunteer groups, corporations, or anyone that could be involved, just to find out nothing. Confused, she returned to the illegal dump in a Sunday afternoon, and here he was, piling trash into an old truck. He was panting heavily and his white shirt was drenched with sweat. Looking closer, he had some muscles beginning to develop, which was to be expected after all this hard work. The lean man was nowhere to be seen, but suddenly a tall man appeared, laughing as saw the young boy barely standing on his feet. "Ha ha ha ha! Good job today, young Midoriya. Now go and have a good rest. Tomorrow we'll take care of that abandoned car." Why, yes, he didn't have the energy to answer properly. Hidden behind a fridge, Komori memorized that name. Midoriya, I wonder why he's working so hard. Maybe he's getting paid by that scrawny man. But why do this alone? I'm sure that huge guy would be a great help. She returned to her aunt's house, and for the next months, she sporadically would walk by the beach and look at the progress the green teen was doing. With the moving, she had to transfer to another middle school, at least until the entrance exams to UA. The shy brunette didn't exactly try to make new friends, and time passed so quickly that she didn't notice until the day of the exams. Komori felt nervous. The written test wasn't so difficult, she studied a lot to pass. The terrifying problem was the famous practical exam that UA performed, known for pushing the middle schoolers to the limit and being responsible for a lot of denied enrollments. Her quirk wasn't exactly suited for battle, and the brunette wasn't in top shape, so she couldn't help but feel that she was fighting a lost battle. Then, during the presentation of the practical exam of this year, a tall boy with glasses called the attention of someone, and she simply couldn't believe in her eyes. It was that kid Midoriya. What was he doing here? Komori suddenly remembered what the skeletal man said months ago. Whatever it was, the deadline for Midoriya's objective was around these days, so she wondered if the kid managed to succeed. For some reason, knowing he was here made her feel more at ease and confident. The boy sure left a strong impression in her with his determined look, so Komori thought with herself. If he was here, then he would give his best to pass the exams, and she would do the same. Unfortunately, she didn't end in the same group Midoriya was, but she successfully finished the exams and felt that she passed. Did Midoriya pass too? He didn't seem like the type that fights. Out of curiosity, that day Komori decided to go to the beach, see how much of it Midoriya managed to clean, and boy, she was surprised to see the result. No way. Where once was an ugly illegal dump, now was a completely clean beach. The place was spotless, not a single can to be seen. Her eyes were looking at it, but she couldn't believe them. He must have asked for help. There was no way Midoriya would do this all by himself. Then again, he seemed so determined whenever she looked at him that she could kind of see him doing it. Heck, this beautiful sunset in front of her was the proof of his hard work. That night Komori remained awake, for the anxiety of knowing whether she passed or not, and because the green-haired teen didn't leave her head. She wished they could go to the same school. Someone must have heard her, because on the first days at UA she spotted the mess of green hair in the crowd. Turns out he was at class 1 while she was at 1B, not the perfect situation, but still they could talk during lunch and even hang out after school. The only thing stopping Komori was her own shyness and insecurities. She made new friends, and they helped her get through her limitations, but whenever she thought she couldn't do something, she remembered of Midoriya and the way he was working so hard to achieve his goal. It filled her with the same will to push further and go beyond. As time passed, her admiration only grew. Komori heard that someone at the entrance exams destroyed a 0-pointer, and she was completely surprised to know it was Midoriya. So he had a powerful quirk, and it wasn't the only thing great about him. In fact, all of the guys from 1A looked awesome. They faced villains and survived on the first days, and the sports festival was surely something else. Her brown eyes with sharp crosses went wide when she saw the replay of the obstacle run, the green-haired teen literally blasting to the first place. Though his face held a fierce and determined look, he still looked pretty cute, but she wasn't ready for the fight between him and Todoroki Shoto, the son of Endeavor. After his fight against Hitoshi Shinso, she began to root for him without noticing, so she felt a little sad that Midoriya lost the fight. Still, seeing him giving his all once again made her will to persevere stronger. With each event that involved the Emerald Boy, Komori's admiration for him only increased to the point where she really wished they could trade him for Monoma. Not that she hated the blonde, but she really wanted to be closer to him. Such a wish made something click inside her head. She might be in love with him. That thought was confirmed when she heard Midoriya was kidnapped. Never in her life she felt so worried, and her heart skipped a beat when the news of his rescue arrived. That made Komori realize that she couldn't wait any longer. From the start, Midoriya was someone special to her, someone that inspired her without even knowing, and she wanted him to know that. All her efforts to overcome her shyness and be more confident would pay off now, as she was decided to confess her feelings for him. There was just a tiny problem now. Congratulations, Kendo-chan. Eh? For what, Komori? Aren't you dating Midoriya now? Dating? And no, not at all. I mean, we're just friends. Kendo also loved him, and after a little confusion, he seemed to return her feelings. She was late. Now there was no way Komori could tell him how she felt, and she wanted Kendo to be happy too. But, damn it, Kendo-chan, it had to be him? Sigh, I can't blame her. Midoriya seems to be an awesome person, and he's so brave and clever and so strong and, cute. Like a glowing Panelus stypticus or a Mycena chlorophyllus and glow-in-the-dark shrooms. Search it, they look really cool. Oh, I could use them to illuminate the way. Would he praise me again? I shouldn't do this just to impress him, should I? Komori-san. Matsutake, she was forcefully dragged out of her own world and said the first thing that came to her mind. Looking around, everyone was looking at her with worried faces, which made her confused. Is everything all right? I could ask you the same. You didn't respond at first, Midoriya said, his caring eyes never leaving her. Sorry, I got distracted. I know we're in a difficult situation, but try to keep focused. You almost fell on the water. Only now Komori noticed she was on the edge of the sidewalk. They turned at a corner, and she almost went straight to the channel, if it wasn't for Midoriya holding her hand. He's holding, with his hand. Oh my, Komori began to hyperventilate, almost falling backward on the muddy water. Midoriya pulled her close to him and let her lean on himself for support. Does it count as a hug? The brunette slowly wrapped her arms around him, holding the boy as close as she could to her. Komori, what's going on? Did you get dizzy or something? Kodai asked from her place on his backs, worried about her friend. Yes, I mean, no. I just, I'm fine now. Completely fine. Komori-san, if you want. There's no need for you to carry me, Midoriya-san. I can walk, I swear. She held her hands up in defense and was really glad that the light of the lamps didn't let her obvious blush appear. The green teen looked at her a little surprised. I would suggest that we could make a pause, but you're right, we should keep moving. She wanted to hit her face right now. He was simply near her, and her head was already a mess. I'm right. Do you want me to carry you? Ugh, it's so tempting, but... No, I'm fine. Let's keep going. The group resumed their march in the dark, exploring the long culverts and searching for the last member of their original group. Midoriya tried to not think about it much as he knew it would break his focus, but he really wished to find Uraraka as soon as possible. Almost as much as he wanted to not find Himiko, but she was an important element that they couldn't afford to lose. Plus, a tiny part of him felt that a death sentence was too much, at least when it was the League sentencing. Yes, he said he would do things before. Yes, he still hated her for all that she did to him, but at the very end Midoriya couldn't think of abandoning the blonde here without second thoughts, and it wasn't because of whatever information she had. Maybe I should be less forgiving. Oh right, I just remembered. Midoriya-san, about what happened back at UA, was that black thing part of your quirk? I thought it was a power enhancement, Komori questioned the green teen. As for Midoriya, he tensed up a bit. how to explain this. That's true. With all that happened, I totally forgot about it, Yanagi said. Me, Midoriya, how do you call that black energy thingy? Why did you hide this until now? Can you make more than one large tendril? Does it have a long range, or Hado assaulted the boy with questions, but Midoriya cut her spree. Sorry, senpai, this is new tea to me too. My quirk is, a new thing to me, so I'm still learning, and I really don't know where that came from. His past words carried a hint of sadness. By now Midoriya thought he was controlling One for All, making it his own power, but after that incident, he felt even far away from his goal. Don't worry too much about it, Midoriya-san. You got your quirk pretty late, so it's normal that you don't understand it completely. In fact, it's impressive that you managed to keep up and surpass most of us having a quirk for such a short time. I'm sure you'll get the hang of it too, and very soon Kodai's encouraging words not only surprised Midoriya, but Yanagi and Komori too, as they knew the courier girl for some time. It wasn't like Kodai didn't cheer for her friends, but she seemed so close to Midoriya to the point where the two girls thought she might be opening up for the green-haired teen, even if just a bit. You're just like Mirio, Midoriya, Hado said, clasping her hands together. Me? Like Tagata-senpai? Yup, no matter what happens you inspire others around you. Tamaki says that Mirio is like the sun, so that could make you a lighting. A lighting? Yes, when everything is dark and looking really bad you shine and light up the skies like a green lighting. Also, you get covered in sparks when you use your quirk. After the brunette's comment, everyone went silent. Hado wasn't afraid of saying what she had in mind, and this time wasn't different. The fact was that each of the girls trusted in him, and that they would get out of that place together. The girls would do everything they could to help, but honestly, they would be questioning the possibilities a lot more if the Emerald Boy wasn't present. Midoriya took that as another reason to keep pushing forward. More people were counting on him, though he wasn't aware of how much some of them felt dependent. The silence allowed the group to notice some noise coming from ahead. Proceeding with caution, they reached another cross-section. They focused on the source of noise, trying to decide which way it came from, and they agreed it was from the path ahead. This led to the next question, investigate it or not. It could be villains, or it could be Uraraka. Or even worse, both, and she was in trouble. The last option was more than enough to convince Midoriya to see what it was, but Hado wasn't sure, neither Kodai. Yanagi agreed with Midoriya on seeing whatever it was, but left to Komori the decisive vote. I think we should see what it is. We could be caught by surprise in the future if we just ignore it. Komori trusted Midoriya's judgment, but she couldn't simply say she would follow him every time. So the group jumped over the water and followed the sound. As they walked further into that tunnel, it got louder, and in the distance they could see a tiny source of light. Hasty footsteps came to their direction, and they got ready to a fight, but a surprise awaited for them. Running and almost tripping in the dark, Uraraka came out of the darkness. More villains, eh? Deku-kun. Uraraka. She rushed to him and hugged the green-haired teen tight for a whole minute. Midoriya would do the same if his hands weren't busy. She let go and looked at him in the eyes with a relieved expression. I'm so happy to see you, Deku-kun. I was so worried. Me too. How are you? Did you get hurt or met the enemy? I'm fine, and yes, a group of villains just surrounded us, but I managed to escape. That's why you were running. Yes, I tried to look around for you, but I ended. Hey, wait up. What do you mean by us? Kodai said. Uraraka seemed to only now acknowledge the presence of the other girls, especially the one clinging on Midoriya's backs. Oh, good to see everyone is here. We should move, they will be after us in no time. You didn't answer my question. Did you find someone else? Kodai insisted, and the brunette seemed to hesitate a bit. Yes, I found Toga while looking around. And where is she right now? Back there, surrounded by villains. Let's go then. As soon as we get Himiko, we'll head to the exit, Midoriya said as he walked ahead. Wait, you want to save her? Uraraka asked incredulously. We can't let her fall on the hands of the League again. Deku-kun, she's a villain too. Let her deal with the mess she created. They are going to kill her, Uraraka. I am almost sure of it. So? Midoriya stopped on his tracks for a moment, then turned around to face the brunette again. Even in the dark, he could see she was bothered with something. I can't let that happen. Why not? After all that she did to you, you don't have to save her, Deku-kun. That's not it. Then what? Why are you going to save her? Give me one good reason to risk ourselves for her. He stopped to think about an answer, but it never came. Kodai was the one who answered. With all the information she knows, Toga Himiko is an important asset for the pro-heroes and police. That should be more than enough of a reason to bring her with us. Okay, she knows things, but we could get out and call the pros. They should be more than capable of rescuing her. We don't know where we are, but it must be somewhere really far from the city. We found a crystal mine, so this must be a more isolated region, Yanagi said. Plus, we don't know for sure if our plan to get out will be successful. It's almost a bet, Hado added.
So we should be moving already. I don't see why we should bother rescuing her, the brunette said, almost spitting venom when mentioning the blonde girl.
Uraraka, I know this isn't the ideal situation, but we can't let them take Himiko, Midoriya said, his voice failing to sound confident like before. Why? Because she's an important asset? Just for that? Yes, she's an important asset. She slowly shook her head. Why? Uraraka, Why? You call her Himiko. Why? Why does it matter now how I call her? Uraraka walked to him and grabbed one of his arms, dragging the boy away with her. You, Uraraka, let go, we have to. No, we don't have to. We don't own her nothing. You don't own her nothing. It's not about to own her something, and you know it. Then tell me, and be honest this time, why do you want to rescue her? Uraraka spun around, still holding his arm and staring into his eyes. When he took more than a minute in silence thinking about it, droplets formed at the corners of her eyes. What? Do you care about here? Is that it? That's not, I don't. Then why, Deku-kun? Why do you want to save her? Why? Why did you let her stay here? Why do you call her that way? I had to. It was the only way to... No, it wasn't. If you needed help getting over it, then I would be more than willing to help. But no, you had to let that monster get into your life. I didn't let her into my life. I hate her. Are you sure? Then why do you keep letting her walk around you? Why do you still train with her? Why didn't you oppose to her getting a costume exactly like yours? She hesitated, but it had to be said. Why do I feel you're going to forgive her? I'm not. He didn't know how to answer her. Doubt and worry began to fill his heart. He wasn't thinking she really changed, right? The voice of the blonde echoed into his mind, remembering him of every time Himiko said she would make him love her. I don't know. He didn't dare to look at her when he said that. Uraraka was about to drag him again, but she felt a hand rest on top of hers where she was holding him. Kodai, who watched the heated discussion from the front row, looked at her. I don't understand exactly why you're so mad, but I get it that you left her behind on purpose. Midoriya raised his eyes. Uraraka didn't deny it. Well then, if you don't want to go, our plan is to follow the water flow. There should be a drain to all this sewage, and it can be our way out of here. Go ahead, we'll rescue Toga Himiko and join you later. And now you're giving the orders? Sorry, but I'm not going anywhere without Deku-kun and... No, I'm sorry, Uraraka-san. As the older and most experienced here, I'm in charge and will rescue the blonde, you like it or not. Midoriya is coming with us, Hado said, standing next to the green teen and the girl on his backs. Hado-senpai, you can't. Now it's not the time to be carried by our emotions, Uraraka-san. We have to set the priorities. Yanagi joined them. I think Midoriya is right. Even if she was a villain, Toga knows how the underworld works, the people who pull the strings. We can't lose that advantage. Komori also joined them, standing on the other side of the Emerald Boy. You all don't know the shit you're talking about. You didn't see what she did. You didn't see him was a villain. She is a villain, and nothing she says can change that. Uraraka felt some tears rolling, but she didn't know the reason for them. Sad memories? Perhaps? Anger? Definitely. Jealous? Of whom exactly? She can't fight back, Midoriya said, getting the attention of the girls around him, Uraraka included. He took a deep breath in and released slowly. Toga, Himiko can't defend herself with the inhibitor collar. Aizawa-sensei reconfigured the parameters and she won't be able to do an arm lock without triggering it. You and I know pretty well she can take care of herself, Deku-kun. Not in this situation. She's outnumbered and defenseless, and she won't run away forever. You're right, it's not only because of what she knows. I can't stand seeing someone in danger and not help, even if she did. All that she did. None of them were expecting him to say this, especially Uraraka. It really wasn't about forgiving the person who kidnapped and tortured you. He was talking about doing the right thing, at least what he thought was right. Don't get me wrong, I still want to see her behind the bars or as something. I said to her I would do it myself, but I can't imagine myself doing this. Hurt badly maybe, but to kill someone. I don't want to even go this far if I can choose. In the dark of the tunnel with only 2 old lamps to see the path, the girls stared at the green-haired teen speechless. Empathy only went so far as they couldn't imagine saying the same words if they were in his place. Surprisingly, Komori was the one to break the silence. So cool, she said in some kind of awe state, realizing after a while that she actually voiced her thoughts. She simply looked at the ground, getting the attention of the other girls. Oh my, and I just said I was the more experienced. You sure sound cool and heroic now, Midoriya-san, Hado said, petting his head like an older sister, to which he looked at the floor in embarrassment, similar to the mushroom girl. It's just what I think, Hado-senpai. You should take the compliments, Midoriya. You did sound really cool, Kodai said, also petting his head, which made Midoriya blush. She was pressing her chest further on his backs without noticing. Oi, since we decided, let's move on already. I bet the girl won't last much longer, Yanagi said, already taking the lead with a lamp. Hey, we didn't decide anything, Uraraka called out. Midoriya turned to her again, his expression as soft as always. His eyes reflected the dim yellow light of the old lamp, even making it brighter. Are you coming? She looked to the side, to where they came from, to the possible exit, then back to Midoriya. What was the point of getting out without him anyway? Ugh, fine. But be ready, when I left the thing was already pretty bad, she said, getting the other lamp and leading the way. Thank you, Uraraka. Don't thank me, Deku-kun. I'll have you returning this later, she said, and he got a little afraid, but then she turned to him. So we have to get back safe, you hear me? He couldn't help but smile. Yes, I promise. All the other eyes and ears were focused on them, many things going through the young ladies' heads. They approached the exit of the culvert, and they could hear noises of explosions and shouting. Never in his life, Midoriya thought he would want to see Bakugo accompanying these two things. The culvert ended in a large concrete pipe that disposed of the muddy water like a waterfall. On the sides were stairs leading to another part of the complex structure of tunnels, except that it was a large octagonal hall with some huge machines and metal platforms on the walls, connected by more stairs that lead to higher levels of the hall in a spiral. Large metal doors lead to other sections of the sewer system and to other rooms. From one of them came the explosions and shouting. Getting there, the group found huge chaos, with villains running around and trying really hard to catch a certain blonde girl in a familiar-looking green costume. And you were worried about her. Not now, Uraraka. Komori-san, I'll need you to take care of Kodai for a while. If they see you keep them away. Yanagi-san, we'll need a little distraction. Look around for something you can use. Hado-senpai, I'll need you to strike them as hard as you can while Uraraka and I get to Himiko. The girls were impressed by this, as they weren't used to see Midoriya in action like Uraraka. They simply agreed with his plan, feeling that everything would end well if they followed him. So while Yanagi looked around for objects she could throw at the enemy, Hado dashed straight to them and began to send villains flying everywhere with her shockwaves. Meanwhile, Uraraka and Midoriya fought their way to Himiko, who was currently running from a guy with cricket legs and antennae. "Stay put so I can get my reward, you annoying brat." "Ha! Dream on, Roach," she said, evading a stomp with a backflip. "Let's see you call me Roach when I put my hands on you," he said, then jumped at her. The last thing he saw was her quickly looking to the side and smirking, then the world became black. What happened was that he got struck by a green blur giving off sparks. "What took you so long, dear?" A wide smile opened in her lips.
Sigh, I should let them capture you. Midoriya looked at her, hands balling into fists.
"But you didn't. Aw, my knight in shiny green armor, you came to save me." Himiko jumped at him, hugging Midoriya tight. He stood still for a moment, then pushed her back. "Yeah, let's not forget that I have a good reason for that." "Oh, do you finally love me?" "Hell no. You know a lot, and that's the only good reason to not let the League put their hands on you." "So you're saying you're not here to save my precious neck?" "Not only that. Let's go already." Hi. Oh right, I found Ochako-chan a while ago. She was like super pissed to find me, and she left me to die here. Not very heroic, but in her defense I may or may not have been a little too annoying and... A little? Yeah, right? "Ochako, you also came to save me." "Huh, from what I can see everyone came to save me?" she said, looking around and seeing the other students fighting the villains, particularly focusing on the brunette and the serious beating the bad guys were getting. "So Izuku, does it mean we're going to have fun during the nights now? I can't wait to feel your..." "One more word and I swear I'll break all your teeth," Uraraka said, grabbing Himiko by the arm and dragging her to the exit with Midoriya right by her side. "No, not my fangs. They have the best points in cuteness." The brunette suddenly stopped and held on Himiko's other arm with more strength. "Do you think this is a game?" "I'm dead serious about that, Ochako-chan. You will be dead if you don't stop playing around oof." Uraraka got cut when a part of what looked to be gray wood almost got her head if Himiko didn't tackle her to the ground. Midoriya jumped through some pipes and knocked the villain out of the platform with a powerful kick. Himiko got up and even offered a hand, but the brunette shoved it away, getting up on her own. "Don't expect me to thank you." "I don't. What are friends for, right?" "I'm not whatever, let's get out of here." They made their way through the group of villains without much difficulty, thanks to Hado knocking most of them out and Yanagi attacking them without being seen. Ironically, she met the group she spooked again, and they began to run away once they saw the floating barrels and pipes, shouting nonsense about ghosts and haunted tunnels. At the entrance, Komori was doing well protecting Kodai. Most of the villains didn't dare to get near once the first guy started to cough and fainted shortly after. But there was this guy with the acid spit, which made him almost immune to Komori's spores. The mushroom girl and her friend got ready to fight, but it wasn't necessary as a green lighting knocked him out. After him came Hado, Yanagi, Uraraka, and Himiko. "We got her, now back to the tunnel," Midoriya said, rushing to pick up Kodai. But before they could reach the exit to the tunnels, a huge pillar of blue flames blocked their way. He came out of his cover, hands shoved in his pockets and a bored expression. "Going somewhere?" "Don't move." "We'll let you go now." Behind them, 3 clones of Twice appeared, forming a pyramid. To their right, Mr. Compress blocked the way to another room and Spinner got to their other side. "I don't want to fight someone who follows Stain's steps like me. Himiko, just give up and come peacefully," the lizard guy called out, pointing his cluster's sword to the students. "Spinner, how have you been doing? Not exactly good to see you all guys." "Hey Dabai, did you miss me that much?" the blonde said nonchalantly.
Thigh, of course not. Turns out that even when you're not around, you are a pain in my ass. And don't be fooled, Spinner. Shigaraki didn't say we had to bring her with us, Dabai said as he flared his hands in blue flames.
The students tensed up, getting ready to the incoming battle. By far the biggest problem here was Dabai, with a lot of literal firepower. Then there was Mr. Compress. One mistake, and he could take anyone away. Twice and Spinner didn't look like immediate threats, but Midoriya wasn't going to underestimate the enemy now. They couldn't move forward, and the way back was full of villains. What should they do? Suddenly, everyone in the room heard a faint noise. It was like the sound of something being hit. It slowly became louder, and then came distant screams. The banging and screaming got louder. Both villains and heroes in training turned to a large metal door. The screams got clearly audible and voices came from the other side, begging for the door to be open. They hit the door desperately, and their voices got muffled by a ferocious roar. The screams ceased, and so did the hits on the door. Silence fell in the room. What was boom? Dabai got cut as the heavy-looking metal door got blasted away. The roar of whatever was inside the tunnel sounded, forcing the teens to cover their ears. It was familiar. They looked at the tunnel again, and from the darkness emerged a form, or at least that's what appeared to be happening. The figure was almost pitch black, and the shadows around it warped wildly, spreading out of the dark tunnel. Red eyes appeared as the shadowy form expanded, towering over the dark figure. Pant, the call of the depths echoes through the wind. Pant, the stars die one by one. Your black claws reach to the sky and swallow the silvery moon. Pant, darker than the void. The abyss calls for my soul, and it calls back. Angst, terror, and fear taking everything in its path, forever shrouded in the darkness. This is revelry in the dark. I'll consume everything. Be it the mighty form of dark shadow or the speech the bird-headed teen just made, the students took a moment to process what was happening. "Takoyami!" shouted Midoriya and Uraraka together. His eyes widened once he noticed his friends. "Midoriya! Uraraka! Stay back!" As he said that, dark shadow began a frenzied attack, swinging his claws and tearing the machines in parts. The villains, at first surprised by the quite intimidating entrance, got into high alert, avoiding the attacks as they could. "What's next?" Dabai said to himself, firing flames to repel the huge claws. "Your dim light won't shake my cursed black soul." Meanwhile, Takoyami managed to get to his friends, almost falling to his knees. Uraraka helped him stand up by putting one arm over her shoulders. "Takoyami-kun, you learned to control dark shadow in the dark?" Midoriya asked. "Not exactly, Pant. It's more like giving him an objective, Pant. I still have to struggle with him most of the time." "Where did you end after the warping, Takoyami-kun? Are you okay?" Uraraka asked. "I'm somewhat fine. The villains I met, I can't say the same. The warp gate brought me to some kind of machine room. This seems to be a huge hydroelectric plant that was abandoned. The structure must have been compromised because during a fight a hole caved under me and I fell on these tunnels. Then we can get out of here. I bet we'll find the exit with we climb the tower we are in now," Hado said, pointing to the stairs and platforms on the walls, spiraling up. "Wait, senpai. I was trying to return to where I was. Zero is in trouble." "Zero is here too? So we're not the only ones caught in the warp gate," Midoriya said with worry in his voice. "Don't worry too much, Izuku. I'm almost sure Kirigiri didn't warp a lot of students." They turned to the blonde as she spoke. "What makes you so sure? He brought a lot of villains." "That's the point. Kirigiri didn't use his warp so randomly. He aimed at the League's army and at me. You all were nearby, so we all ended here. If we got out of his vision field when he was in that huge cloud form, he wouldn't know where to use the warp gate. That's why I tried to get you out of the street, Himiko," said the last part looking at Uraraka, who huffed and looked away with arms crossed. "Anyway, we must get moving. Zero should be in the upper levels, right, Takoyami?" "Probably. Then we find him and look around for an exit. The faster we get out of here, the sooner we can call for help," the green-haired teen said, and the group headed to the stairs. Uraraka had to help Takoyami because Dark Shadow was still rampaging. The lights of the room helped to calm him down a little, but the shadowy bird spent a long time in the dark of the tunnels. At this rate, going up the platforms would be too dangerous, but with some struggle, the symbiotic being obeyed his master's commands and at least stopped attacking aimlessly. Dark shadow covered Tokoyami in a bigger and rougher version of black ink. The group of teens climbed the stairs in a rush, then suddenly a blue fireball almost hit them, melting the platform they were about to cross. At the other side of the room, also climbing the stairs, Dabai held a hand up, still covered in flames. Spinner and Twice were coming after them and quickly. Damn it! Tokoyami, Uraraka, get everyone to the other side. I'll stall the hothead, Midoriya said, getting ready to use the Air Force glove that was still intact. As the two students crossed everyone, Dabai shot more fireballs that Midoriya managed to repel with his Delaware Smash Air Force, but he had to wait for the last moment. He still had to train his aim. Deku-kun, behind you! Uraraka shouted, and Midoriya turned around to see Compress rushing at him. Reacting on impulse, Midoriya activated full cowl and jumped away, barely avoiding the grasp of the masked man. He didn't measure the distance though, but Dark Shadow grabbed him and Kodai, pulling the two to the platform. They began to run again, but now Midoriya had to focus more on blocking Dabai's attacks. Good thing they managed to get out of his range, but the path to the upper levels was quite long. The heroes in training arrived at a large hall. Large turbines could be seen. This was the main floor of the plant. Looking around, Yanagi located some stairs that lead to a higher level, and they found another room with windows to watch the turbines. Old-looking control panels indicated that it was the monitoring room. They started to look around for anything that could tell where they were, and in the process, Komori found out that the plant was indeed structurally compromised, as Tokoyami said. An old mine was discovered at the final phase of the construction, and the tunnels turned the terrain unstable. Good job, Komori-san. This will make it much easier for the pros to find us, Midoriya said to the short mushroom, who covered her face a little with her hat and mumbled a thank you. We should look for your other friend now. Do you remember where you two were, Tokoyami-san? Hado asked the bird-headed teen, and he nodded, guiding them to the other door of the room. They headed through a large corridor and found a large hole in the floor, the place Tokoyami fell from, so Siro should be somewhere ahead. The group crossed the large gap and kept running through the hallway, reaching another higher level. It leads to an open area where they could finally see the outside of the large plant. The problem was, once they left the door, they got surrounded by villains. And calmly walking through the crowd, the white-haired man with hands all over his body appeared, clapping his hands slowly. Well, well, congratulations. You formed a party and managed to escape the dungeon. Too bad the last phase is a horde level. You activated my trap card. Shigaraki snapped his fingers, and the door behind them exploded. They couldn't go back now. There was damned water to one side and a long fall to the other, villains blocking both sides. Now, hand over the blonde without resistance, or resist if you want, it doesn't really matter. It's game over for all of you anyway. The heroes in training backed off as the villains advanced towards them, standing back to back and in fight stances. Worry was plastered all over their faces. That's really a tight spot. Any ideas, Midoriya-san? My guess is as good as yours, senpai. Komori-san, your spores. Sorry, the place is too wide and the wind isn't helping. Tokoyami-kun, it's nighttime, so I don't think Dark Shadow will cooperate much. I'm barely containing him right now. Revelry in the dark, revelry in the dark, revelry in the dark, the sentient shadow whispered in a kind of sinister way. I knew it. Rescuing her would only cause more trouble, Uraraka said, fists up and eyes darting around the many enemies surrounding them. I'm sorry Shigaraki put a target on my head, Ochako-chan, Himiko said sarcastically. Now is not the best moment to discuss that, Uraraka, Midoriya said. But Deku-kun, not now. We have a much bigger problem to deal with. And guess whose fault it is? Tusk, whatever. Izuku-kun, I have an idea, but you won't like it, Himiko said to the green-haired teen, catching his attention. At this point, it can't be that bad. I'm listening. Are you really going to? Not now, Uraraka. Himiko, your plan. The blonde hesitated a bit before saying it. Ochako-chan can make you all weightless so you can jump from here. They'll come after us. No, they won't. Sigh. Shigaraki put a prize on my head. These idiots will ignore you if I run in the opposite direction. Everyone looked surprised at the blonde, especially the green-haired teen. He held her arm before she could even think of taking a step. That won't happen. We all escape together. Oh my, as much as I want to go with you, my love, it's the only way. Then find another way. I can't lose you here. We can't let them take you. You know too much. Aw, you're faking that you don't care. It tears my heart to tiny bits, but this is where we say sayonara, Izuku-kun. Himiko took some steps away from them, her eyes focused on his face one last time. He must be hallucinating because Midoriya could swear he saw tears rolling over her cheeks. Yet she still showed that fanged smile, though this time it lacked the usual malice and sadistic vibe. When you all get safe, tell everyone I don't give a damn about you guys. I did that only for you, okay? Himiko glanced one more time at Midoriya's emerald eyes before turning to the young man with severed hands on his body. Oh-ho, so you surrender? I expected you all stubborn heroes to put a fight. Don't get me wrong, Shigaraki-kun, I know how much you like to play on expert difficulty, the blonde taunted, getting into a fight stance. Every cell in her body begged for her to turn around and look at him one more time, but she had already said goodbye. It would be too awkward now, though she wanted to see his face when he was flustered. All she got until now was fear, panic, and anger. The army of villains dashed after her, one trying to trip the other, aiming for the huge reward waiting for the one that brought her head to the leader of the league. Well, if they wanted it so much, let them go after her, all while he escaped. As a woman with sharp long claws jumped at her, a simple thought crossed her mind. Peh, what the hell am I doing? What do you think you're doing? The blonde felt a strong pull at the hood of her green costume, and she saw the woman sink her claws on the floor where she stood. A quick glance back, and she spotted a green mess of hair and shiny emerald eyes. Are you trying to get killed? You can't fight this army alone. Heck, you can't even fight. Izuku? Uraraka, can you make all of us weightless until we get to the floor? Let's hope I can. Wait, Takoyami-kun, I really need Dark Shadow to keep us all together. Can you do it? I'll tame his rebellious soul. But I told you to. Hado-senpai, you and me will be the defensive line with ranged attacks. Yanagi-san, you carry Kodai until we reach the floor and... Stop! Damn it! I told you to run, Izuku. And why would I listen to the stupid things you say? He turned to her, and for the first time, Himiko saw it directed to her, a bright smile from the Emerald Boy. I made a promise, and I'll keep it. I'll save everyone. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through What If Everyone Gets Obsessed with Deku and Harem. I hope you found it as intriguing and thought-provoking as we did. A big shout-out to Guy number 23 for crafting such a compelling story. Don't forget to check out their profile on fanfiction.net for more amazing works. The link is in the description below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to What If Deku 2 for more fascinating explorations into the world of fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we're always excited to hear your thoughts and suggestions in the comments section. See you guys in the next video.